Hello. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Sir, I can hear.
Good afternoon. Yes.
Good afternoon. Sir Ramesh.
Hello.
Good afternoon. This is Ramesh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think is audible, no, sir?
Yeah, clear.
Okay. Shall we start?
Sure. Yes.
Already 60 participants are there in the Zoom, and there are some participants in YouTube also.
We'll take another 2 minutes. We are waiting for some experts to join. We'll start shortly. A very good afternoon to all of the participants, and thank you for taking out your valuable time. So on behalf of Prakriti Institute, I would like to invite you all for a 3 days workshop on sustainable development initiatives for the Asian countries. So we are organizing this event in technical coordination with CEPHA network and IIT Madras. So I would first like you all to introduce to the speakers and the dignitaries that are present with us today. So I would first like you to introduce to Dr. S.M. Shiva Nagendra, who is a professor of Civil Engineering Department at Indian Institute of Technology, Chennai. Then I would like you to introduce to Dr. M. Dwarakanath, who is former director DSTE and member secretary, Puducherry Pollution Control Committee. Then we have the other speaker for today, Engineer Ramesh Shimoga, who is General Manager, Energy Services Industry, Optitech TGG Group, ANZ Region, Australia. Then the last speaker for today is Dr. D.R. Ravi, who is Environmental Officer with Karnataka State Pollution Control Board, Bangalore. Then we also have with us Dr. Madhusudan, who is former Additional Director CPCB, and he is presently working as a project advisor to CEPHA. Then we have Mr. Srinivas, who is Director of EGSSPL and Prakriti Institute. Then we have Mr. Ramesh Kumar BN, who is Chairman of Prakriti Institute with us today. Now I would like to hand over to Mr. Ramesh Kumar BN to proceed the program further. Thank you all. Mr. Ramesh.
Thank you, Shali Madam. I welcome you to the program. And as you all know, today we are all assembled or we are in this webinar program for sustainable development initiatives for the Asian countries. So the first speaker, Dr. Shiva Nagendra sir, I welcome you on behalf of Prakriti Institute of Environmental Studies. And Madam Charanya, she will introduce Professor Shiva Nagendra to the August gathering. Thank you.
Dr. S.M. Shivanagendra, with PhD in Environmental Engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, India, presently working as Professor and Network Director at Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. He filed 3 patents and granted 2 patents: spiral baffled cyclone separator for particulate emission control and multi-stage air purification system with hemispherical discharge. Presently working on 10 ongoing sponsored research projects, published books, 2 book chapters, and 15 journals. Sir, please take over the screen.
Thank you. Can I share my screen now?
Sir, you can share the screen.
Is the screen visible to all of you?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, so good afternoon to all of you, and good afternoon to the participants, and thanks to Dr. Ramesh and Dr. Madhusudan for this initiative for joint workshop. We are on training program on sustainable development initiatives for Asian countries on behalf of CEPHA network, which is being sponsored by UKRE. I'll quickly touch upon some of the key initiatives of this CEPHA network. The CEPHA network aims to enhance intersectorial, interdisciplinary engagement, and we also wanted to create a long-lasting relationship in addressing all aspects of environment, particularly focusing towards low carbon development, and then what are the solutions that can helpful for achieving low carbon, which can also beneficial for multiple health, environmental, economic aspects. So the idea is, how do we achieve this through an engagement? Basically, you might be knowing that it is one platform where we are trying to engage policymakers, researchers, citizens, and also the health sector and industry to address the concerns of environment. The other objective of the network is to identify what works. For example, some aspects may be working, or some solutions may be beneficial. In some other place, it may not working. So we try to identify what works in that particular area and try to understand what is the gaps and challenges that are existing. Are there any barriers in improving the environment? Then we'll also look for strengthening the international cooperation. We already expanding our research capabilities and capacities with interacting with several international collaborators. Capacity building is another aspect where we were trying to enrich and engage the young minds to work more on this sustainable development. Of course, the last aspect of this network activities is to generate, we wanted to make this network more sustainable by means of generating research income through joint research projects. Now let us quickly do an CEPHA network activities. So as I told you, we initiated with an air quality management lecture series. This Friday also we are going to have our 13th lecture series, and we also organized several workshop and panel discussion. Prakriti is another newsletter we have come out with in addressing the environmental aspects. We also organized several international conferences, and as I told you, our next conference in ISACM 2021 will going to happen in December 16th to 19th. I already mentioned about capacity building. We plan several competitions, workshops, panel discussions. Then we also happen to achieve 2 joint research projects which are funded now successfully with the Australian University and University of Surrey. Then we also currently working on to identifying what works, what are the kind of challenges in addressing the environmental issues. So we also made some videos to manage solid waste management, particularly for the school children. Just to give you an idea, I'm sorry for the background noise, some work is going on. This air quality monthly lecture series we started about a year back, and it is a first of its kind where we invite people who are working in this air quality management area, and just to share their achievements, their understanding, their contribution to the the younger minds. This AQML joint air quality management lecture series is jointly organized by IIT Madras, GCRF Clean Environment and Planetary Health Asia. So that is a short form of CEPHA. Then Indian International Conference on Air Quality Management. So you can also see earlier lectures, which is already available in CEPHA website. So these are the key speakers which they have contributed to the air quality management lecture series. We started with Dr. B. Sengupta, the former member secretary, extensively worked on air quality management. And the last one was from Professor Dr. Arun Kumar Sharma. He's a director, ICMR in Jodhpur, Rajasthan. Now we also have some panel discussions where on both the occasion on a World Environment Day, we invited eminent speakers to discuss on various aspects of environment. These are some aspects, details about panel discussion. So our details are available in the CEPHA website. You can please visit and go through the various activities that are happening in the CEPHA website. And you are also most welcome to suggest any changes, or you are most welcome to join hands with CEPHA network. So these are all some community events. We have organized several competitions. These are all school children. They made a nice drawing. They got these are all award winning drawings, which we have conducted in World Environment Day 2020. And this is about World Environment Day 2021. So these are all competitions with respect to creative drawing, poster presentation, and also we have made video. So we also made a document dissemination in collaboration with University of Surrey. We have made mitigating exposure to traffic pollution in and around schools in English, Tamil, and Malayalam, and it is again available in the website. This is another video which we have made on solid waste management. This is basically to targeting to the young children. So this is an about 12 to 13 minutes video. Children can enjoy the visit to the solid waste management facility. The Prakriti is our quarterly newsletter, and next one is due in December. we're basically trying to address the key environmental issues and try to look at it, the young researchers who have carried out their work in various aspects of environment. So this will again give you a glimpse of various works, various researchers, their ideas, their connecting to the society. All aspects have been discussed in CEPHA Prakriti as a CEPHA newsletter. Now, as I told you, we are going to have this ISACM 2021 in 14 to 18th December 2021. Initially, we thought we were going to have the in-presence conference, but because of the pandemic and then some travel restrictions, now we are going to have in virtual mode. You can get more details by visiting www.isacm.in. Okay, so thank you all. CEPHA Network welcomes you all. This is an exciting program for 3 days to train you on sustainable development. So I'll stop now. If we have any quick questions, I can answer that. Otherwise, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Participants, if any questions are there, you can just type in chat box. We will reply you.
I think just to share with you, I think somehow I don't know why my slide is missed this particular aspect. I'll share you our CEPHA network group. I'll quickly show you that these are our CEPHA network group members. People are working. You might be saying that Dr. Matsudan, Dr. Suvarna has joined recently as a network manager, and Dr. Swaroop and Gopika, they are working as a researcher associated with CEPHA network. Yes, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Now we'll move on to next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. M. Dwarakanath. He is presently working as an expert member in the Research and Development Committee in the Ministry of Environmental and Forest, Government of India, which is financially assistance is given to the R&D projects to the academic institutions. Visiting faculty, Department of Environmental Science and Management, Bharati Stan University. Sir, over to you, sir.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you, Dr. Shiv Nagendranji, for your excellent presentation and introductory lecture. And I am really grateful to IIT Chennai, that is to Dr. Shiv Nagendranji, and also to Mr. Ramesha from Karnataka Pollution Control Board, Prakriti Institute of Environmental Sciences, Bangalore, for providing me this opportunity. It is really a great opportunity for me to get associated with both the organization, and then thanks a lot for providing me an opportunity to share my views. Can we go to the slide?
Yes, sir. 1 second. ಇದಲ್ವಾ ಸರ್
It was good, nice. So many people have attended. Is it possible to capture one, a photograph or something, video apart from that attendance, something they should indicate as per the record. Yeah. It was nice. Okay, I mean, hopeful.
Yes, sir. Thank you for doing this. And my topic given to me by the organizers is GST, Greenhouse Gases Inventorization and Climate Change Action Plan. Next, please.
Next slide.
I think this is a yesterday's presentation. Today morning, I gave a slightly altered presentation. Can we have that?
Sorry for that.
Yeah, 1 minute, 1 minute.
Yes. Sorry, because why I didn't try to present from here is at many times network issue happens. That is the reason I always send the presentation in advance to the organizers so that it can be presented from their side. Yes, please. Next. Yes. Today morning, Times of India reported this. So that is the reason I thought I will include this slide. We have come a long way since independence. India's life expectancy has become 69, which is almost double than what we were earlier. And the population growth rate has come down from 11 to 7, from 17 to 11 presently. And the median age of the population, which is very young, is up to 21 from 28 from 21. The total fertility rate, which is another indicator for any good population, has come down from 5.9 to 2.2. And the infant mortality rate has also come down drastically from 181 to 32 since independence. And all these parameter indicators are the best in for the Asian countries because of the sheer population that India have. Because other Asian countries, barring China, all other are tiny countries. Whereas India has achieved these figures despite the huge challenge of population, huge power. These are all indicators in the positive direction, but we have lot to cross and long way to go. So this is the first slide. Next. See, there should be a vision and mission for any institution. I always used to tell, unless the otherwise that is there, then we don't know what to do and how to do. For example, for any offline functions, we should have a vision to have it as a complete eco-friendly function. What are the components? There should not be any plastic. There should not be any flux. There should not be any leather. completely say no to disposables, no littering post functions. I have 32 such specific presentation only on eco-friendly functions, but since today's focus is on greenhouse gases emission, I am just making a mention. We are having a number of good habits that we are doing, especially in Asian countries, like we are always using star labeled products, and then resource conservation and prevention of unnecessary use has become always a part of our lifestyle. Energy, water, and repairing and reusing, recycling or refusing, refurbishing or upscaling of any used product is always infused in our lifestyle and life culture of Asian countries. So we have to be proud of all these things, and we always try to use public transport, and wherever possible carpooling is also happening. Our major population, majority of the population moves through public transport, and waste minimization and scientific recycling and material from waste also we should concentrate, and we are doing that. And water body conservation and restoration is also one important issue which is happening all over all urban cities in India. Next. And widespread tree plantation is also happening to all places through NGOs and also government and through institutions. Next, this is a poster telling about what to do for reducing carbon footprint, whether we are an individual or as an institution. Where are the 4 component sectors where we can attempt at is electricity and heating. Here, a huge potential for reduction of carbon emission is there. What we conserve electricity, it is going to directly reduce carbon emissions. Driving, instead of individual personalized vehicles, we should try to go through carpooling or through public transportation. That also saves a lot. And also effective scientific waste disposal of whether it is specialized waste or it is solid waste or electronic waste. The material recovery in a scientific manner, if we do, we save a lot of energy, and also we save a lot of manufacturing energy also for making new product. Instead, we are recycling the same material and product, and also to cut down air travel. If with these 4 sectors largely we concentrate, it is going to reduce a lot of emissions. Next. Eco-friendly, just instead of a flux painter, have a tailor and a painter, have a white cloth, and then use your fruits and vegetables for making letters. So that will replace the flux. Like this, believe me, each and every item that we've used in a conventional function can be substituted with eco-friendly materials, where at the end of the function, there will not be anything left out. Only biodegradable materials may be there in the form of food waste and vegetable and fruit peels that can be given to a nearby cow shelter. We have to tie it up with them before itself. And then these are some of the ideas. Use vegetables like lady's finger, green and red chilies, carrot, etc. for letters. Have jute and cloth files for plastics instead of plastics. Give ink, pen or pencil for refill pens, or ask the participant to bring their own kits. That will save you money, and also it will be eco-friendly. Next. These are all actually it is happening in a marriage hall in Vellore. One Mr. Vellore Srinivasan, who is a national expert on solid and liquid resources management, he performed his own marriage by substituting 32 different materials in a marriage, and he performed his marriage as a completely eco-friendly marriage. The poster says it is his marriage way back 20 years back. Next. He is Mr. Vellore Srinivasan at the time of marriage. He is the same person who figured in Satyameva Jayate program in Vijay TV in Tamil and also in Hindi. So he is the same solid liquid resource management person who has done excellent work across various sectors, various cities in the Smart City project and also in Amrut project in various cities across India. Next. Next, please. Hello. Next, please. This is rethink, refuse, reduce the consumption, reuse everything, refurbish the old stuff, repair before you replace, repurpose, be creative and reinvent, recycle. These are the new mantra for any institution and also for the individual to make conservation. Next. See, these are a number of initiatives by Asian countries. Thanks to Mr. Ramesh. Yesterday, when I was discussing my scope of slides, after giving him a draft, he was mentioning to me, it would be better if I tell something about new initiatives by a number of Asian countries. We are stitching bilateral and multilateral sustainable agreements across nations. Locally, we are trying to use locally grown manufactured vegetables, foods, and products rather than tinned product or imported product to a maximum. Living with simplicity, and we are in the habit of recycling all material resources. And we are having huge alliance in the form of International Solar Alliance led by India, where more than 100 countries are there. So that is because of this, the scale of solar power generation has gone up and the cost of solar power generation has drastically come down. And we are in the habit of using maximum public transportation, and we are using recyclables to a maximum extent. And despite the harsh weathers in North India and also in South India, we don't have centralized heating or cooling system which consumes energy a lot, and we always try to use energy efficiently electrical and electronic products, and we are trying to use renewable energy sources also, and we are having a campaign to avoid plastic bags, and the recycling of papers also is being done to a great extent in our these countries, and we always tend to walk for a shorter distance rather than traveling by car or two-wheeler. And despite our all developmental pressures, we are increasing our forest cover to whatever maximum extent possible. Next. As I told, what can more be done in Asian countries? It is vast, because India and China, we are having huge challenges because of our sheer population. So our per capita emissions may be less, but sheer population increases our absolute emissions. So these are some of my ideas as to what more can be done. More effort and education like this capacity building is needed. So I congratulate the CEPHA Center and also the IIT Chennai and Pragarti Institute for conducting such capacity building program, and these kind of programs are needed often now and then sustainably. And we are trying to always reduce the food wastage, and we have to do more and avoid plastic bags, gifts, leather products wherever possible. Instead, eco-friendly products can be given, avoiding online purchases so that we can reduce scope 3 emissions, and also a number of packaging emissions also we can reduce. And we should have a green vision and mission so that we are focused and we can achieve a lot. Avoid and minimizing all kind of waste. More initiative by industries, government in energy consumption, production by sustainable and renewable sources we should concentrate, and we should handle better solid waste handling practices in a scientific manner, and also providing clean sanitation, drinking water and public health to all the population. This should be our motto. So consistent, sustained, multifold efforts are to be taken without compromising our developmental pressures. So these are something more that Asian countries can attempt to do it. So these are my thoughts. Absolutely, there can be much more on this, but this just I thought in the morning, and then I included these slides. Next. See, for an institution, what can be done in our vicinity without much of effort. In our own university or college or institution, we can increase bird diversity, forest diversity. If it is water bodies are there, freshwater or marine water diversity, we can increase, and plant diversity we can always increase. Plant census and diversity we can do. Of course, racial diversity we should preserve and we should try to increase, and also the genetic diversity. So as an institution for increasing the diversity, this is a UN poster which I have taken it out and then presenting here. Next. This is also in a simple way, UN poster again, what can be done for restoring nature. Whatever the nature restoration we do, we always indirectly we conserve our energy as well as reducing our greenhouse gases also. Land protect the wild areas, forming better future. Cities make space for future nature. That is why C40 Alliance is there across the world, because cities are the going places in the world where huge migration takes place because of employment, educational, and health facilities around the cities. So if we plan and build our cities in an energy efficient and sustained way, it will save a lot of energy and also it will reduce a lot of greenhouse gases. Ocean protect the marine habitat, water safeguard the lakes and rivers for wildlife and also for biodiversity. Climate, of course, reduce the impacts of climate change. Food, plant-based diet and reduce waste. These two are the objectives. One, a holistic health one has to have. So these are the objective of a plan to how we can restore our biodiversity. This is again a UN poster. Thanks to them. Next. See, this is the latest IPCC report, 10 findings of IPCC report. For the sake of information, I have kept here. I am not going to dwell it in detail of this. This has appeared in Down to Earth. So thanks to them. Next. See, this is the historical perspective of climate change and the global warming. Right from 1850s, slowly and steadily, though at that point of time till maybe 1970s or so, it was not a significant rise in annual temperature. But beyond the 1970s, we have started seeing slightly increase in temperature almost every year. So this is how it happens. It has happened even before, right from 1850 till now. Next. This is again UN challenge. The present is 1 degree we are trying to contain, but it is not possible. We may end up anywhere between 1.5 and 2. And then what lies ahead is beyond 2. But beyond 2, it will be a huge cost we may have to pay. So that is the reason capacity building programs like this and training programs and hand-on workshops like this are happening, so that to make more and more people sensitized about this and then try to practice sustainable ways. Next. See, what is India's response to the climate change? You know, number 1 and 2 and 3, these slots are remaining empty. So despite that, India almost is in the top 7 of climate performance index, except China, which is, if you see, all other 4th number, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, UK, Morocco, and Chile. You combine 4 to 9, we are more than that in India alone. Though for the number sake, we are at the 10th, but whatever the sustained initiatives that India takes, it will be much bigger than all these small countries. So that we have to keep in mind. We should not go only by the numbers that it indicates, the index. Next. See, the 49% of global warming emissions there comes from the 10% of the rich countries. And you know, the light green shades, what is there, that contributes only around 39%, which we are developing countries. We have our aspirations and we have our huge need of our growing population. So that the poorest 50% is responsible only for the 10% of the global GHG emissions or CO2 emissions. Next. See, these are the different categories of sources of the greenhouse gases emission based on the NADCOM of 2016 by India. Electricity production, road transport, and enteric fermentation of wastes and our rice fields, and also non-specific industries, iron and steel, residential and cement production, agricultural soils, refineries, rice cultivation. These are some of the major sources of greenhouse gases emission. Percentage wise, it is given. Next. This is in the same different form or representation in the pie chart. Next. These are top, again, 15 sources of emissions of greenhouse gases by different countries across the world. And again, up to 3% rice cultivation and refinery, it is there. Next. See, why IPCC emission inventory was needed. The emission inventory is needed that one has to believe what that country emits. So for that, you have common framework and platform should be there based on which every country has to give the data. That is the basic reason why IPCC emission inventory and the protocol has been evolved. And then this gets refined every now and then. Last was in 2016, and the 2019 emission inventory and protocol has been refined slightly. And for the benefit of the viewers, I have tried to give both the links for their individual reference and for future references. Next. Why we should quantify? Basic fact is, if you can't measure it, you can't control it. One should know what is the problem, what is the quantum of the problem that I have, so that I will work on the solutions. So why the measurement is required? Measurement is required because to manage it. Next. The national inventory is prepared in accordance with the paragraph 8 to 24 of the annexure to decision 17 in the Conference of Parties 8 in 2002. And it is meant for the national communication, that is NATCOM, and we have to give every 2 years or 4 years to the UNFCCC. Next. Background, how to do it: a comprehensive and documented accounting all kind of GHG emissions attributed to an organization activity. It can be for an organization or for a city or for a state or for the nation as a whole. So what are the steps? Identify the sources, choose the boundaries, whether it is within the industry or within the city or within the state or for the nation as a whole, and collect and compile the data, calculate the emission and document the results. This I have tried to give you in a nutshell of the methodology, how we have to do it. Next. What are the major sources? Municipality sources or community sources. GHG inventory, it can come from solid waste treatment, wastewater treatment and storage, domestic by way of industry for lighting and energy needs, and also for cooking needs, and also transportation, mobility, industry for processing and manufacturing, and stationary fossil fuel generating the electricity. And also GHG inventory through enteric fermentation of manure and also rice field and agriculture activities, and also cattle population and their excreta, so on and so forth. And also the scope 3 GHG emission, tourism, transport, wastewater, solid waste, etc., contributed by the tourist. Next. This is a GHG inventory which we did for Pondicherry through World Bank assistance way back in 2016-17. This is the different sectors that has emitted 3.46 million tons of CO2 equivalent from different sources. Industry was the major one, and then followed by domestic, transport and solid waste and agriculture as far as Pondicherry is concerned. Next. This is the same in a different way we have this thing. Yeah, in transport alone, we had two different scenarios, because if we go only by the sale figure of transport fuel from the fuel outlet, we were getting huge amount. Then we introspected. The union territory, Pondicherry being a union territory and also a great tourist destination during weekend and seasonal tourism was there. A huge number of vehicles come there, and then because of the tariff difference or the tax reduction in tax of fuel taxes, they used to come and fill their tank. whether it is from the nearby districts of Kadalur or Viluppuram or Mahabalipuram district people, or the tourist people that are coming from other states or other countries, whenever they use the vehicle, all of them used to fill and entirely take the vehicle, the fuel. So that is the reason then we have taken the national average of vehicle numbers registered along with the emission factors for the vehicle. That we followed in case 1, that is the transportation. In case 2, this is due to the absolute sale of fuel, but we have for the knowledge sake we have projected both, but for the final calculation we have taken the case 1 only, that is case 2 1. Next. These are the National Action Plan for Climate Change. Now, 8 different missions are there. 2 missions specifically devoted to Himalayan ecosystem. That is National Mission for Sustaining Himalayan Ecosystem. And others are common to all the states. And some states like Pondicherry, as well as all coastal states, and some other states like Jammu Kashmir has projected some more missions which are under active consideration by MOEF and the Finance Ministry. Otherwise, the common missions are National Solar Mission, National Enhanced Energy Efficiency Mission, Sustainable Habitat Mission, Water Mission, and National Mission for Green India, and National Sustainable Agriculture Mission, and Strategic Knowledge Mission. All the missions have different outlooks and objectives, and they have different mandates also. Next. As I told, according to those missions, we have made a little bit tailor-made mission for Union Territory of Pondicherry, where we have combined agriculture and Green India mission together, because agriculture in Pondicherry is almost negligible, and we have included a coastal and disaster mission, because that was this thing which World Bank suggested, and the Government of India also agreed. States like Jammu Kashmir has included tourism mission. So these are the missions that we considered for State Action Plan for Climate Change in Pondicherry. Next. GHG methodology, I am not going in detail. It is a simplified GHG emission calculator, is designed as a simplified calculation tool to consider for any emission estimation by any organization or the city or the state as a whole. The calculator will determine the direct and indirect emissions from all sources at a company when activity data are entered into the various sections of the workbook or one annual period. So this is the link that anyone want to see how it is calculated, that you can go to this link and do the needful. Next. This is different emission factors for different vehicles, and also for agriculture or for fuel. Different emission factors are given. This was updated in 2019. Earlier, it used to be 2016 emission factors. Next. In different missions, this is how it is categorized. You have to identify various activities of what needs to be done, and the activities need to be categorized into high priority, medium priority, low priority. Even within these categories, we have to see for soft, short-term, medium-term, and long-term actions for each missions. And this mission will have 2 such pages, like one for mitigation and one for adaptation. So this is how the different categories of points are categorized for various activities, whether it is mitigation or adaptation, whether it is low priority or medium priority or high priority, or it is short term, medium term, or long term. This is how we have categorized after identifying various activities under each mission. Next. Solar mission. I will take up only one mission and read and explain, try to explain in detail. Rest of the missions I am leaving due to the paucity of time. Solar mission, the energy demand in UT is mostly met by the grid-based power and fossil fuel. The demand for both primary and secondary form of energy has grown several folds. This is the basic factual statement. So we have to do maximum renewable energy potential and the RPO obligation to industries and institutions have also been specified. And net grid net metering has been done after long discussion and stakeholder consultation that has been done. And domestic and institution solar water heating and the solar photovoltaic has been recommended and encouraged and motivated. Subsidy also given, and in some model schools, in colleges also, central kitchens, renewable use energy has been promoted, and also demonstration of various solar applications have also been done, and the solar capacity building for various stakeholders have also been done, and the grid interactive solar power generation and the PPP and IPP, that is power purchase agreement, etc., has been worked out in consultation with the Bureau of Energy Efficiency and also the power department. Next. Next, please. Mr. Ramesh Kumar. Next slide, please. Anybody from Pragati Institute? Hello. Hello. Like this, thank you. This is enhanced energy efficiency mission. Here also various targets and priorities have been given. That is, Pondicherry was the first state to give 10 rupees LED bulbs directly to the households for domestic consumption, wherein incandescent lamps have been phased out, and a tripartite agreement has been entered between the bulb manufacturer and the supplier and also the electricity department to give the energy saved as a matter of cross subsidized, and then the bulb manufacturer, LED bulb manufacturer, has been repaid their amount. So that kind of tripartite agreement with the help of Bureau of Energy Efficiency and Energy Efficiency Services Limited, EESL, we have entered during my tenure. Next. Like energy conservation awards and also motivating and also star rated energy efficiency products have been made, and also energy audit has been made compulsory for various industries and institutions, and promoting and adopting energy efficiency technology has been done in new buildings. So this is how various activities under each mission has been identified, and efforts have been taken by giving a financial subsidy or motivation, or by mandating them, or by giving certificate or subsidies to various stakeholders. Each project or mission of objectives is made effort to be met. Next. Next, please. Next, please. Like that sustainable habitat mission, wherein all the cities that are existing or new buildings that are coming up should be sustained energy with renewable energy, and that benchmarks in the form of energy energy efficiency building code, etc., has been mandated and advised, and property tax exemption, etc., has been given. Property tax exemption has been given in many states, that including Pondicherry also. And wastewater recycling and this thing. Reuse has been emphasized in the habitat mission. Green building concepts and also green building concepts are to be implemented. This also was promoted in institutions and government buildings. And if it is certified property tax exemption or environmental clearance priority was given in the states like Maharashtra and Gujarat. And a number of mobility related better mobility like flyover and bypass, etc., was also envisaged, and clean fuel was given for the individuals to go from the conventional polluting fuel. Next. Next, please. Sustainable agriculture, going for integrated pest management and also organic agriculture, and also for to use manure from organic sources, and also per acre productivity to increase, and arresting the saltwater intrusion in coastal areas. These are given impetus by various means. Next. Forest cover increase also has been emphasized, and for such a small union territory, we had more than 10% of forest cover or the area, because it is very significant considering the minuscule nature of the union territory. And promoting ecotourism in a very eco-friendly way, and also using surface water for agriculture instead of going for the groundwater. And also increasing the avian culture, biodiversity, and also the biodiversity of water environment, and also having better cropping patterns, and also giving sustainable cropping advices to the agricultures. So these are some of the programs. Next. And the water mission, which is very important, and these are the quantity that was used in terms of domestic agriculture and also for industry. But over the years now, the industry in Pondicherry has declined to a maximum extent, and the trend has almost reversed. Next. These are some of the objectives and priorities of water mission: desilting of ponds, conserving and preserving the existing ponds, having more and more rainwater harvesting and promotion of percolation pits, and then increasing rainwater harvesting. And for building bylaws, rainwater harvesting has been made compulsory, and also surprise inspections are being done for this, and also channelizing storm water. But due to sheer pressure of tourism and also growing housing needs, groundwater across India is declining. So Pondicherry is not an exception. There also it is declining, but at the same time it is improving in some areas also. Next. Strategic knowledge missions. The program like this, where the knowledge and the experiences are shared to everyone. This kind of knowledge network has been established across the union territory, and also across the states with the union territory. That was also there. Many such national and international workshops have we have participated and organized also. Next. And the energy benchmarks have been notified, and building bylaws have incorporated energy by ECBC, and also this recharge structures have been made compulsory with giving building permits. See, these are some of the issues where the concepts are given, like institutional framework. Like it is there, rainwater harvesting is to be done, energy conservation while construction is to be done. But linking these two with the building permits, and also with the priority in environmental clearance application, or giving them fiscal incentives in property tax, etc., are some of the institutional mechanism through which these are actually encouraged to a great extent. So these kind of programs are identified and given importance and implemented. Next. Coastal and disaster management was another very important for the Union Territory, because soil erosion was there, sand erosion was there in many places, especially near to the city, and also artificial beach restoration thanks to the effort of National Institute of Ocean Technology and the Ministry of Earth Sciences, where we had a demo project and then we completely restored the more than 1.5 to 2 kilometers of city beach in the Pondicherry Union Territory. And with the World Bank assistance, we have prepared the integrated coastal zone management plan for all the 4 regions of Pondicherry and submitted to the Government of India for approval. And we have, with the World Bank assistance during my tenure, we have conducted the high tide line, low tide zone, and hazard line mapping for the Union Territory in all the 4 regions, and ground toothing and ground referencing has also been done with the help of Anna University. Next. DPR for many projects and also for arresting saltwater intrusion and also increasing the percolation of fresh water, etc., in form of check dams, etc., has been done. A state-of-art of disaster management center was also established after tsunami in 2004 in the Pondicherry Union Territory in all the 4 regions, with the state-of-art satellite online imageries with Bhuvan and all ISRO-based satellite, and also having IMD, networking with IMD and a number of other website organizations, and also disaster resilient World Bank housing, and also state-of-art of fish marketing with storage and marketing has also been developed in the city. And HTL, LTL mark has been marked in the coastal stretches and on ground. Next. So, way forward with some of the ideas I have shared as to what has been done and how it has been done. Always be a mad person. Mad means not a literal sense. Try to be a make a difference person. What one man one man in the head of the institution makes a lot of difference to the institution way functions. So think and act before you act, because that saves a lot of problem. Because whatever the output that is going to come of our act, if we think we can put systems for management of those outputs into place, and put systems in place, think and plan for the management of all your inputs and outputs. It all starts with one person, that is either me or you. So we can make a lot of difference. Small drops makes an ocean. So be a reformer and fight for the change, because it takes time, but it pays. And thank you for your patient listening. And I think I have completed within my time limit. And thank you very much for IIT Chennai and also for the CEPHA Center, and especially to Dr. Shiva Nagendran ji, and also to Mr. Ravi Ramesh Kumar and for Pragati Institute for choosing me as one of the resource persons for addressing this gathering. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir, for the insightful lecture and walking us through many unknown facts on climate change and walking us through many practical aspects. We have a lot to take home on greenhouse gases and climate change. I would just request all the participants, if they have any questions, they can shoot it up. We would request sir to take all the questions.
Actually, just I wanted to add one more, but for a short of time, I didn't cover, or otherwise I have an entire low carbon lifestyle presentation, which I will share with Mr. Ramesh, which they can put it at appropriate places or appropriate presentations. It is having 40 odd slides.
Any questions from the participants, they can raise the hand, we'll unmute.
Thank you.
Or you can shoot the questions on the chat box. We'll take up if time permits after the end of the session. Now I would like to invite Engineer Ramesh Shimoga sir to take over.
Ramesh Shimoga sir, with postgraduate in project management and business operation management, currently working in energy services industries. Worked in India for over 9 years in mechanical industries. For past 22 years had a long team career in National Technical Manager for Pharma AG, Business Manager for Great Group, Project Manager in GWA Limited. Sir, please take over the screen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Can you all hear me correctly?
Yes, please.
Give me 1 second. Is my audio clear?
Yes, sir.
Please, can you confirm? Is that clear? I'm not sure.
Yes, sir. Your voice is clear.
Okay. Okay, very good. You can see me as well?
No.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'll share my screen. Good afternoon, everybody. To start with, all the eminent speakers that already have spoken, Dr. Dwarakanath, and also the eminent speakers that are about to speak, the organizers, everyone at Prakriti Institute, IIT Chennai, and CEPHA. Firstly, thank you for this great opportunity to be able to present my view about the solid waste management globally or worldwide or in developed countries. This is just my view. I mean, instead of going through a lot of statistics, I do my presentations based on what is practical approach and how the world is looking at it. So I share my screen. Somebody else is sharing. I think someone has to let me share my screen, please. Can
Hello.
I will present my own slides. Can you let me share my screen, please?
Yes. Shall I make the presentation, Ramesh, or you
No,
will make
I
it?
will present it. I will present
Okay.
it. So, thank
Okay. You please share.
Yeah, thank you. Is my screen shared? Can you see this? Hello?
Not yet. Please.
Okay. Okay. I think you
Yeah.
should be seeing.
Yeah. We are seeing.
Please tell me, because I see a different view, you should be able to see the full view of the screen.
Yes.
So today, the topic said solid waste management in developed countries, but I have renamed this as solid waste management from a global perspective. Although we look at developed countries, we want to be looking at how the developed countries are doing it and what are they doing right or wrong. So we can learn, or we can see how better we can do it in developing as well as to be underdeveloped economies. So I start with what is inevitable. What I mean by that is the easiest solution for a problem would be to say, let's stop it. So why are we talking about all these waste and waste management? Whether it's solid waste, hazardous, non-hazardous, gaseous waste, nuclear waste, doesn't matter. Why are we talking about it and making it such a big issue in the world? Why can't we just stop it? We cannot, which is why I'm calling it the inevitable. Because as we have gone from agricultural age or revolution, being globally being an agricultural based economy, then to industrialization, then the information era. So we are developing as a globe, the population is increasing, which means that the economies are getting stronger. And we are doing different things compared to what we were doing 100 or 200 years ago. So this whole process is inevitable, which means we are trying to take source that is raw material from wherever they are available. We are processing it or making something out of it. Then we are using it or we are consuming it. And then at the end of its life, we are throwing it or we're discarding it. Now, this whole process is completely inevitable. We cannot avoid this process. So that's why I call it inevitable, because we cannot stop taking source or raw materials from the source. We cannot stop making things. Otherwise, we can't survive in today's world, which means we are using them, which is why we are making them. So we cannot stop consuming or we cannot stop using things, which means eventually they will come to the end of their life. They become useless or redundant and we have to throw or discard. So this process is inevitable. So if this process is inevitable and as a result, we are leaving a bad carbon footprint in the world, we are creating or generating a lot of waste. We are taking it to the landfill. We are spoiling this world. We are limiting the life of the earth. Why are we doing this then? If it is inevitable, let's keep doing it. Let the earth die in 50 years should be the argument. But that's also another extreme. So while I start my argument with it is inevitable, I also look at how the world is moving towards managing this whole thing. So what we do, which is inevitable, we can do it in a responsible way. But mostly because of lack of knowledge, it's not deliberate, because of lack of knowledge and education and understanding, we are either doing it irresponsibly, which is why I add that IR, or we are doing it in a non-responsible way. So what that means is we are taking a gray area of source, we are processing it, then we are using it, consuming it, and we are discarding it in a dangerous way. So my color coding has got its meaning. So we are going from what is okay, a gray area, towards a towards a browner and redder or reddish area by the time we discard things. That is an irresponsible way of doing it. That is a non-responsible way of doing it. So whose responsibility is it then, or what is the way out of this? We can do the inevitable process instead of being irresponsible or non-responsible in a sustainable way. And that is the intention of next 3 days. And I'm sure that's what you will hear from all the eminent speakers and laureates, because how the world is doing it sustainably. Can we do it more sustainably? Sustainability means that we can prolong this process. We can prolong the life of the healthy earth, or this planet, for as long as possible, for however many generations that are going to live. Let them make use of the planet and live happily as human beings, and of course with animals and plants coexisting. So how can we do it sustainably? The same for, I'm saying, instead of doing a gray or unknown, a blue means you are educated, you know what you're doing. So let us know what we are sourcing as raw material and how much of it is fossil based, for example. how much of it is non-recoverable, how much of it is limited in the world. So let's get ourselves educated in using our source of material. Then let's behave also sustainably in making it. So let's make it in a way that we don't waste too much, or we don't use so much of energy and other ancillary sources or ancillary resources to make what we want to make for use or consume. So when we come to consumption, as I said, because it's inevitable, we cannot stop consuming. At least we can sustainably consume things. Let's use as much only as we want and very responsibly. And when we discard, very, very importantly, let's do it in a slightly greener way, which is why very deliberately that box, the last box, is not full green, because full green means we are putting back what we take from the earth or from natural resource, whatever we take from there. If we put it back in the same format, then it can be fully green. It can never be fully green. So it has to be light green. So let's take the source material, process it responsibly, use responsibly, and then discard it in as much a greener way as we can. That is the idea of management, managing sustainably. So even then, there can be a better way of being sustainable, which is the best practice. Do we know what is the best practice? No. Which is why we are sitting here in this seminar and many other conferences and seminars of this nature, bigger, smaller, as individuals, as corporate citizens, as co-living human beings, as socialists, as economists. We are all sitting here to drive every day to derive what is a best practice for sustainable processing of what is inevitable. So let's keep everything as green as we can. So when I say green, it's responsible. It is taking it in the form that doesn't destroy the earth, or at least reduce the life of the earth, makes it sustainable. So let's get educated about the source or the raw materials. Think about it, whether we need this raw material or is there an alternate. So at the level of sourcing, let's be green as much as possible, and green throughout in processing or making it, in using or consuming it, and in throwing at its end of life or discarding it. So when we do all these things in as much a greener way, that is the best practice. There is nothing like best practice, the best practice. So it deliberately I've left the word the, because there is nothing like the best practice, because the best practice is to come tomorrow. What we have today is best practice as we know it today. It will be better practice tomorrow, which will be after we learn all these things through a seminar. It'll be better practice tomorrow, which is the best practice for tomorrow. So let's keep going. Let's keep educating, educate the world, educate ourselves to get to the best practice. There will never be the best practice at any point in time. So moving on from there, I just wanted to put a context to this. That is why I showed all these things. Just a quick summary. It's the same thing. It's a very simple process. What are we doing is we are getting material out of the earth. We are processing or making something. We are using it. We are throwing it. This is what we are doing day in and day out. Whether we are running a business, whether we are sitting at home, whether we are going to school, whether we are going, whatever we are doing in our daily life, this is all we are doing. We are taking something in the form of a raw material, making something, using it, and throwing it. All we need to do is do it at the most responsible, in the most responsible way. And what we know to be the best, what we know to be best practice as of today, make it better, call it best practice tomorrow. So just to put that in context, Dr. Dwarakanath spoke a lot about all these things. I'm only taking the solid waste part of it out. So there may be some repetition. Of course, he has shared a lot of statistics and information. So my presentation is going to be much more easier. So where everything ends up, if we remember my previous slides, the waste or the discard ends in the landfill. So we are digging the earth or putting it on top of the earth sometimes. Whatever we have, all our waste, we are putting back onto the planet Earth or under the ground or over the ground. That is landfill. Today's landfill, what goes into landfill today? In terms of only solid goes into landfill. Rest of it go into the atmosphere and create many other problems, which in today's presentation, we are not concentrating much or focusing much about. So the landfill takes municipal solid waste. It takes sanitary landfill from medication and every other source. It takes a lot of industrial waste. As I discussed in the beginning, today probably, yes, it is a major contributor, but the most contributing factor to the landfill today is construction and demolition waste. Because whether most of the developing and developed countries are sustaining their economy based on infrastructure development. So biggest economies today, like USA, China, Europe, India, we are generating or fueling our economy through construction and demolition. That's because we are building infrastructure. We are building infrastructure for tomorrow. So the biggest contributor of all these four is the construction and demolition based landfill, which is something we can avoid. We don't have to construct anything, should be the argument, but we can't, because to retain an economy, you have to develop infrastructure. And again, inevitably, construction and demolition waste is a byproduct of that. So anyway, major four types of landfill or material that go into the landfill, just to put that in context. And I want to just brush through this. All of you should know waste in terms of solid waste, any waste for that matter, but let's presume solid waste that I'm talking about is hazardous and non-hazardous. Like radioactive, like many industrial waste that are hazardous, the chemicals effluents, there are solid waste as well that are hazardous, which go to the landfill. Medical waste, which we talked about as sanitary. Then the size of the blue box there is an indication in non-hazardous waste, municipal waste, which is what people like myself living at home and in my office, in my work, on the road, leave as waste. That is municipal waste. A lot of it, non-hazardous, but it's a lot of volume, which takes millions of years in the landfill to, if at all, if they go biodegradable. There are other non-hazardous industrial waste as well. So municipal waste, luckily we have organic waste, which is coming from our food, which is better than packaging waste. And in my future presentation slides, you will see why I call packaging to be much more dangerous than organic. And other glass, plastic, metal, tires, and a lot of other material that goes as waste as well. So that is a general classification or a hierarchy of waste that we are talking about. So we have looked at what is the process, what generates waste, where it goes, and what waste we are talking about. Just to put that in again, in a good context before we get on to the real fact of how we manage them, how the developed countries are managing them. So just another view of what type of waste we put into. Now the color bins, this will become a part, although it looks very simple. The color coding of the waste has been a big contributor to managing the waste better. If people understand the color coding and do it, just yesterday there is a news item that has come back on, and I want to touch on it. It's not in my presentation. You can Google it. There is an initiation in the Australian Capital Territory in Canberra called FOGO, F-O-G-O, Food Organic, and I think it's vegetable or green organic, FOGO, Food Organic, Green Organic. They have made a separate collection truck or series of trucks with a separate collection inside the house, outside the house, only for food and grain or vegetable organic waste. So they realized that these organic waste, although we thought that the last one you're seeing as organic waste here was safe enough, the problem is when they go into landfill, they produce methane. which is a dangerous gas. That's very basic. But the problem is, statistically, again, remember this point, because I'm going to touch upon how we use the information and data to make policies or policy making when it comes to governance. This is an important example. So 30% of the solid waste was organic. It is easier to implement anything in a country like Australia with lesser population compared to the rest of the world. So they have started with our Australian Capital Territory in the city of Canberra. 30% of the solid waste were organic waste, except that nothing else produces that much of methane. So every organic waste type produces methane in the landfill. So they're trying to avoid it and handle it in a much more responsible way. That has just come in the last few months. So that's why I said that was not the part of best practice last year, but it is a part of best practice today, and it'll be better tomorrow. So just color coding is the biggest contributor. Now time to look at, I will touch upon this light little box here. Very, very good collation of article in a booklet or in a publication called Water Waste 2.0 from the World Bank Group. So they have collected some numbers, and I'm throwing some numbers on the screen now. So it is a myth that, I say it as a joke, it's a myth that rich people do not produce waste or rich people always behave responsibly. But this slide is going to definitely tell us something different. As you see, the high income group, this is not people, as world global economies, the high income group produces much more or generate much more waste than any other income group. In fact, the low income group only produce 93 million tons per year as compared to 683 by the high income group and the lower and the upper middle income groups in between. So to me personally, when I saw this statistic, not that I was blinded to think otherwise, but at least it's a big disparity. You can see that the high income economies or high income GDP economies produce 7-8 times more, generate 7-8 times more waste than the low income. So it's better to be from an environmental perspective, it's better to be a poorer individual or a poorer country. Again, my joke, don't take it seriously. So if you look at it, only 5% is a low income group, and the biggest is 32%, which is high income 34%, followed by upper middle income of 32%. So the more per capita, the more richer people get, the more they earn, those economies are producing more waste. Now, everything else from here follows that. So in this graph, you're seeing millions of tons per year versus the group. So everything here follows from this. Now, for example, this one is the estimated annual waste per capita by leading. So obviously Canada doesn't have the largest of the population, but they still have 36.1 metric ton per capita per year as per 2019 statistics. And I'm happy to see India is not even there. So per capita, we're not even in top 10 countries producing waste. We are down somewhere below. So if you look at that list, most of them are part of developed economies. You can leave out some things like Serbia, but they're part of East Europe, so still okay. But Canada, United States, Finland, Sweden, countries like them are in the top 10 in generating their per capita waste. Again, a myth buster when we think of, so the larger the economy, the more developed the part of the world, the more developed the country is, the worse they're doing in terms of environment, or the worse they are doing in terms of damage to the climate and the earth and the environment and sustainability or the carbon footprint. So this is next. Another thing, just if you look at solid municipal waste, 2017 survey, again by states, in million metric tons, totally generated. United States, right on top. Of course, we are there this time, and number 3. But happy for me that we are behind China, not after. But United States with the 255 to 60 million population compared to 6 times that between the other two, second and third, China and India, they are doing worse. 258 million metric tons. That's huge. Followed by another forward Brazil, Indonesia, understandably Asia-wise, Russia, So, and I'm happy to see my second home, Australia, being right at the bottom with 13.35 metric tons. So whichever statistics, in whichever way we look at it, whether we look at it per capita, whether we can municipal waste generation, by income group, by economy, the developed countries are creating more damage. Now, is that bad news? Probably not. Not as bad, at least, as we think. So this is daily in kilograms per capita. Now that 258 should relate in some way to this in 2018. So this is every person in kilograms developing. So every person in UK today, or 2018 at least, nearly 2.5 kilos of waste, municipal waste, they threw into the bin for whoever is doing the job to clear and manage 2.5 kilos. So if I was an individual living in the United States, and 2018, I still did 2.23 living in Australia, number 3. So I personally take a piece of solid waste in whichever form and throw it into my municipal bin and leaving the country to manage it and my fellow citizens to pay for it. Followed by Germany, South Africa, France, United Kingdom. None of these countries are developing or underdeveloped. By Japan, Saudi Arabia, the richest population. Mexico, I can write off. South Korea isn't bad. Brazil, China, Russia. So, and Indians again do produce a lot less compared to all these countries. That we are in number 14 or 13th place. It can't be zero, as we discussed. It cannot be zero because this process is inevitable. But it is so easy to manage 0.34 kilograms or 300 grams by a person in India into municipal solid waste than managing 2.5 to 3 kilos from a person in the United States. So you can ask me what is the good thing about it. I'll talk about it in a minute. So as we have seen, the why I showed all those slides is to say that let's not make the mistake of thinking the developed economies are doing everything right and they are not creating any waste. They are creating more waste than anybody else. But they're also conscious of that because they have less other problems to worry about. So they can worry about problems like the green earth and the carbon footprint and all other things. So what they are doing is to manage it properly, spending a lot of money and resources behind it. So their waste hierarchy, or the scientists of the waste management, have come up with this inverted pyramid. The best thing, or the most preferred method, is to avoid waste. And as we saw in our first 1 or 2 slides, that it is inevitable. You cannot avoid waste. So the top is gone. The best we can do is to reduce waste, reuse waste, or recycle waste. So the difference is you can sometimes reuse a waste of a process as a raw material for some other process. Otherwise, sometimes you have to recycle for reusing. So there's a big difference between reusing and recycling. So reduce our waste. And then whatever is the waste, out of it, either reuse directly or recycle and reuse. Try to recover as much, especially in the energy industry. And I'll go through a lot about the recovery cycle. I did a presentation for one of the engineering colleges through EMPRI for on recovering resources itself. So it is a huge, vast subject. So recovering, followed by treating the hazardous waste. We have no other properly treat it. So we are not killing the flora, fauna, and we are not reducing the sustainability of the planet Earth. And then dispose waste. So before coming to the disposal stage, try to do any of these things. Try to avoid as much, if not zero. It cannot be zero. And start doing reducing, reusing, recycling, recovering, and treating the hazardous waste before it goes to landfill. And going to landfill is the least preferable management tool. So principle, or whatever you can call it in the waste hierarchy. So this principle is being followed by the developed countries in much more efficient and modernized way. As I said, I'm not being disrespectful to the developing or the underdeveloped economies. What I'm trying to say here is because, as I said, they have less of other problems to worry about. They are fed well. Their per capita is more. They are rich. They have vast resources. They can worry about managing the waste and make the planet Earth sustainable for a long time. So they have, their scientists would have come up with this hierarchy with most preferable to least preferable way, and let's see how they do it. Again, some more statistics. I mean, now I give you a lot of slides and statistics. So this is by number, how it looks per capita. So 0 to 0.49. I mean, this is in kilos. Starting with the blue and all the way in color coding side it makes sense to understand. And as I already said, India is in light blue between 0.5 and 0.9, although 2018 statistics was 0.2 kilograms. This must be slightly 2019, September 2018. Again, from the same publication, and I insist, any of you who haven't read that to read that publication. It's a very good publication. Whatever is to so by region. Now this is globally by region. It's not gone by continent or whatever. It's gone by region because the type of activity or the economic activity in different parts of the world is different. Just to give an example, Australian economy is mostly mining, agriculture. So we dig something below the earth or we grow something to sustain. And of course, seafood and others, because we have got a lot of sea. Compare that to a place in the northernmost part of Europe where hardly they see 1 month of sunshine. Their activity cannot be this. Their activity has to be different. Compare that coming back to the Gulf region and Saudi Arabia, for example. Their economy has to be based on mostly infrastructure development, construction, followed by demolition, followed by construction. So the activity types are different, which is why they have divided this into regions rather than continents. So Middle East and North America, with a light blue, and South Asia, they are in the least 6, 9, and 17%. Latin America and Caribbean, as compared to Europe and Central Asia, East Asia and Pacific with 20 and 23%. So there is no uniformity. I mean, the point I'm trying to drive here is Europe and Central Asia, I'm facing the map, and then East Asia and Pacific on the far end of the globe. But they are the biggest contributors, 20 and 23, or roughly about 20% each. So just less than 10%, half of the world's waste generation comes from 2 regions. So the idea is to look at the causes of it, the activity types, and way of managing it. So there is no global one way of managing this. It depends on the geographical location, the region, the type of activity. Again, the type of activity could change every 10 years because China went through a lot of infrastructure development. They are slowing down now. They develop the infrastructure. Now they're going into manufacturing economy. So their activity type is changing. So the waste type will change, waste hierarchy will change, and they have to change their management to a different methodology. Sorry, sir. Am I clear to everyone? Just checking. My voice is okay.
Yes, Mr. Ramesh.
Hello?
Please carry on.
Yeah,
Please
because
carry on.
there is some disturbance. I thought whether I'm
No.
talking, but anyone listening.
No, it's going on very well.
Good. Thank you.
Please carry on.
So the next slide here is global waste composition of what types. As I said, activity, it's directly correlated to the activity type, and that can change every 10, 15, 20 years. It won't change overnight, but in different regions it'll change between, say, 10 years, 15 years is a good time scale. So every 10, 15 years they have to forward plan and change the different, which is what they're doing. So food and grain is still, the organic is still 44%. So FOGA example I gave in Canberra should be a good example of why they are doing it, because it's not different, because everywhere as human beings we do consume food. So that is one common activity that's going to develop the same kind of waste in terms of solid waste, organic waste, 44%, followed by the least 4, 5, 2% of the rest of it. I'm surprised still to see that wood is only 5% of the waste, because it's the most recyclable material. Even if we put finally wood chips back to earth, there's nothing too much dangerous to planet Earth. So it's good. But it's good to see that the glass has a smaller percentage. Plastic has a good 12%. Paper and cardboard still has 17%, which has got a double effect, which is while we are getting the green or the vegetation resources as source to make paper and cardboard, at the end of the day, paper and cardboard goes as waste back into the landfill as well. So we are double wasting. One is we are cutting, somebody, I heard it on YouTube. Sorry, I don't quote who I remember, but it struck me very well. They said in a textbook, do not cut the trees, was the message. And that message was printed on a textbook that was produced by cutting 2 trees. So this is the irony about paper and cardboard. So that is a double wing. This slide just shows by composition what percentage of each type of waste as globally produced. So going back to our inverted hierarchy of waste, disposal being the least preferred to reduction. See here already they have cut off avoid waste because this is from a publication from US. So avoid waste doesn't make sense. You cannot avoid waste in the current economy, the current activity levels. We cannot avoid waste. We can reduce it to the maximum we can, and then reuse, recovery, treat, and then dispose takes the priority. So I mean, on the right side, I'm not going into full details of this, but the most preferred there is to reduce through effective management of resources at right from raw material utilization level in my slide with 4 boxes, right through to disposal. Consumption they stop at, but I go to disposal as well. So this is how the world or the developed economies are looking at waste hierarchy management. So from an economic perspective, as the world wants to go green and clean and green, the expense or the cost goes up. So in other words, the richer countries are doing most damage and they realize it. They have the money to spend and trying to manage it to be clean and green, which is what the problem is with most of the underdeveloped or developing economies. Even as a developing economy, any governance, any government, any country, any region would would prefer to put their money in something that's more productive than managing something that is causing a damage to the earth. Yes, we know we are causing damage to the earth, but we don't want to spend our money today in managing it. We want to invest it in something where our economy can grow. So none of the arguments is right, but what I'm trying to say is there has to be a good balance between going clean and green and an expense or the cost of doing it. There has to be a balance. It's like a scale. We can all be clean and green 100%, but we won't develop as economies. We will go back to nomadic days and live life like that. There's nothing wrong with it. There is a reason why we are living the life we are living today. I'm sitting in Sydney talking to 70 of you right at the minute from different parts of the world due to technology. Now, this is the beauty of where we live today, but we are paying a cost to this the technology, the economic improvement, the world for where the world is today. So we are paying a price for it. We have to manage it, and the economies have to spend some money to manage it. We cannot avoid, and I keep repeating myself, we cannot avoid. Just taking an example of Australia as a snapshot. Say 64 million tons of waste is generated in Australia per year. 2.7 tons per person. 13 million of that is municipal waste, but we do more commercial and industrial waste. This number, the reason I put that statistic there is to, even the graph underneath will explain it. I made a point before saying that not every economy produces the same composition of waste because of the type of activity they're involved in. So Australia produces more in commercial and industrial waste because we do a lot of infrastructure projects. We have nothing else to do. We don't manufacture much. We just package and bundle up. Construction and demolition, we do a lot. Every 10 years, we build new buildings. Take the old one down and build, unless it is a heritage building. So we do a lot. So that is Australian perspective, 64 million tons split that way. 35 million tons of that, 50% is only recycled. And 27 million tons go to landfill. Now, what we are talking about globally is that if a country like Australia with the smallest population of 24, 25, 26 million is sending 27 million tons of solid waste into the landfill every year, what is the fate of the rest of the world? They must be disastrous. So we now, based on that, when we look at recovery, we're recovering 58% of 58% of all waste generated. Now, compared to that is a global scenario in the graph that I have shown there, in terms of Australian waste compared to the others. So Denmark, New Zealand, our neighbor, compared up to United Kingdom. And so there is a broad spectrum of global, right from east from here all the way to United States West. Just to give a comparison, so we see the color bars are different. The only color bar, except Norway, for some reason, I don't know why, but the only color bar that you can make a comparison is what they're trying to do is recycle most of it, which is the yellow bar. So this is how we should be looking at statistics and reading the bars to see, what do I see here? I see here that most of these countries are taking the same amount or similar amount of their percentage to the landfill. They're recycling similar amount. Denmark is doing their best. They're taking very least to their disposal or landfill. They're recycling most of it. So 90% of it they're recycling. Good again, only to see if they have achieved those. If these countries, developed countries, have achieved those, there must be something that they're doing and they're doing right. And what is that is our intention today to look at. So The one principle that has worked is the principle of circular economy. So why don't we treat waste as a resource, which was my first box in the whole inevitable cycle of the 4 boxes. So why don't we treat waste as a resource itself? Why don't we, before looking at any other resource, why don't we look at waste as a resource? What can we do with it before we look at cutting a tree or digging the earth, doing something else? So the policy reflects new ways of thinking about waste and the use of resources, as I just explained. The hierarchy, if you remember the inverted pyramid, focus on high order uses right from there of reusing. So by applying principles of, and I'll show you a very pictorial view of this to understand better, but by applying principles of circular economy, we definitely can support a better and repeated use of our resources. So go back to the title. What part of waste, or which waste can I use as a resource before I look at fresh resource from any source? Doesn't matter. The circular economy retains the values of the materials in the economy for as long as possible, because we are putting it back into the same use, and then we are recycling it, we are repurposing it, we are recycling it and using it as resource for some other process. So every atom of resource that we take out, we are making the best use of it in circular economy. And that's what the developed countries are looking at it. The whole waste management as an economy, part of economy, like the defense spending from a country and defense economy of another country. So a country spends a lot of money on defense equipment, and another country produces it. So for the producing country, it's an economic stream. Similarly, for every country, every place in the world, every small city in the world, waste can be an economy, and that is the best economy, and it runs today into multiple billions of dollars. So circular economy is something that's worked fantastically well for the developed countries. So it's got its economic benefits. It creates new industries in the whole cycle of collecting, processing, recycling, and disposing waste, new industries. It creates new products and markets. So today used tires are being bought by other countries in shiploads. So it finds new markets, it finds new products, because we can make something else out of something. Our cobblers in India have been very innovative even hundreds of years ago. They used to take used tire and make chappals or footwear. So we get new products and new innovations, and leading to new revenue streams, obviously, where the money comes from, and it creates a lot of jobs. In Australia, this economy has created 9% of the total jobs as per statistics. So obviously, for all those benefits, there's a global movement. European Commission committed a circular economy action plan globally for better management of waste, including the waste hierarchy. And a very big part of that was transitioning into circular economy. And after these couple of slides, I'll show that in a very pictorial view. Then applying circular economy principles to waste management requires changes to product design, production. Obviously, we have talked about all these things. So we have to look at things. In the first line, I'm saying a new way of looking at things means you will have a new way of looking at, or the economies, or whether it's the government or the private sector or even individuals, we will change our view of product design, production, use and reuse, recycling, and disposal. Further on that, it's a whole system approach. It cannot be individual as a circular economy. And the next slide should explain that point very, very clearly. And it recovers, it takes responsibility for every cent, every paisa, or every dime, or whatever you call, of the cost and life cycle of the material. It minimizes reliance on original material or virgin material, fresh resources, maximizes the economic value of resources, or stretches its life cycle for as long as it's possible. especially hazardous waste. I mean, even if the hazardous waste was 10% of the total process, we are, by recycling, we are reducing 10% of the 10% every single time. And that's a lot of saving if you think about it. 10% of 10% every time we recycle something, or we reuse something or repurpose something. Yeah, the last point is the same for recycling a new one. So what are the key principles of this circular economy that see everything? We can have a 3-day separate session only on solid waste management or gaseous or the nuclear waste management. So I'm using my 1 hour time to drive home and simplify. So what are the key principles of a circular economy? Which is, in simple terms, we are asking to avoid waste. So reduce waste, not avoid. As I said, avoid probably is a wrong concept, but try to reduce it, which means avoid generating more waste by looking at design of the products, by looking at the product life cycle or how long they can last, and how easily we can recover the materials once a product goes to end of life cycle. How easy it is to, for example, an IC chip in a computer, mercury as a waste going into the landfill. How can it be separated from lead and mercury today are banned in most of the developed economies. You can't import anything with lead and mercury, even paint. So avoid that is one of the major principles they're using. Improve resource recovery. This is the most technical part of it, because resource recovery is not an easy process. Because when we make something, we amalgamate, we embed something into something else and make it so tight, and to separate it and recover each component of it at the end of it, which is reversing the whole cycle, is not easy. So that is the most difficult principle, which is where most of the money and time is spent in developed economies. Improving material collection systems, processing of recycling, separation of material, how recycling itself as again a different subject in itself. Then once we recycle, increase the use of recycled materials and find new applications for it. What can be done using a recycled material, or what recycled materials can be used to do something different or something new, is what the developed economies are looking at again. Better manage the material flow, which is right from the generation of waste, separation, storing it there, transporting it through, recycling or reprocessing it, and then disposing it. The whole logistics cycle, how can it be better managed so it is not hazardous to human health, environment, or the economy itself? So we cannot be carrying, in countries like USA, in Australia, even in Canada, where the width is so much, you cannot be carrying, just to put that in perspective again, you cannot be carrying a waste generated in each part of India all the way to the west part of India to Goa or Mumbai to dispose. So that has an impact on economy. So that is managing material flow. And improve information. Now, I touched upon it before. I said, why is it important to look at all those statistics? Is that the public exchequer, the government money is spent on innovation. It provides a guide to investing for new industries, new businesses. So to enable those informed decisions by people who invest money, whether it's private and government sector, we have to have a database management system to improve the information flow to support all these activities. So based on those principles, this should make it very clear in simple words for a layman who is non-technical can understand this. The circular economy simply means this: we are drawing fresh raw materials. Let's block that door, go through this cycle as much as possible, and this should be our output as residual waste. So all we are saying is, think of your design, your production and manufacturing systems, think of your distribution systems, think of every process along the way, and collect your waste, your generation of waste, collect your waste, recycling it, and do it as many times as you can before you go to this brown arrow and put that as a residual waste. So the less you draw from here, the more circles you go around, and the less diameter of the width of the pipe this is, you have a better circular economy. That is what the developed countries are aiming to do. They're not doing it 100%, but they're aiming to do and working on it every day. Now, this in other terms, looking at waste management as a part of the economy and trying to integrate everything into it, not looking at it in silos or individuals, is integrated waste management. That is a very, very popular phrase in waste management science. And all of you would be familiar with this or will be familiar with it if you're students very soon. That an integrated waste management system should take care of all these components. It's not only just managing the waste. There are legal compliance factors, there are technical factors, there are trading opportunities, there are different types of waste. There are methods of recovering the resources. And then if inevitably it's a very, very dead waste at the end of it, what is the logistics behind it? So all that forms an integrated management, waste management science or technology, engineering, whatever we call it. It's not mathematics, or it'll be in terms of economy, but it's either a science or technology or engineering, integrated waste management. Another, I'll quickly touch upon this. This is the compliance. So compliance is regulation or voluntary, mandatory, whatever you call it. You have to simply follow some principles as a business, as individual, behave responsibly, and then you extract, process, and use and throw respectably. If you do that voluntarily or through policy enforcement, which is by rules and regulations, which is why the whole department and many of my friends here from pollution control boards, either state-based or national, are there. They will talk more about it. So whether you enforce it through policy or through legally or do it voluntarily, that is the basic compliance roadmap, which is following just some principles, behaving responsibly, and then taking out, processing, using, and throwing our resources or the waste very respectably. There is social responsibility. I'm not going to talk too much or not at all into this. We've all heard, whether it's individual, municipal, social responsibility, whether it's corporate social responsibility, whether it's governance social responsibility. There is a social, we all are socially responsible. The policy making in developed economies in managing waste takes care of these things, and they are still working on it through many summits as to define the problem, which is what, as Dr. Dwarakanath did before, he mentioned it, that we have to understand the extent of the problem to manage it. And that's basic principle. So understand that problem, create an agenda, a strategy, then implement that and see how you go, review it periodically. And then if there is a residual problem, put it back. There may be new problem. So go through that cycle of policy making is what the developed governance economies, developed economy governance are doing. So what is a government's role in all these things? I've taken it from Australian context, but it applies to many of the, or all of the developed countries, is to have an obligation to implement the international agreements. There are lots of G9, G7, OECD, a lot of organizations and commitments. They sign off on certain things that they have to be obligated to implement those. And within their own regions, they have to regulate the movement of hazardous waste. They have to coordinate national waste policy initiatives. And as we said, information is important. They have to support data collection and better use of that data on a reporting system from time to time, which is where from we looked at all the statistics in my previous slides. They are published, they are renewed every day. The more authentic and clear and accurate the data is, the better decisions can be made. That is the government's role, because nobody takes interest in collecting data, because we're all busy as individuals and corporates in making something profitable and developing the economy. We're not interested in collecting data unless it's for profit. So work with the industry on product stewardship, making new approaches, innovations, how to recycle, how we can use recycled material or reuse or repurpose the material. Government has to initiate, and you will again find that a lot of the developed economies have spent a lot of their taxpayers' money on these initiatives every year, every fiscal budget. So just as an Australian scenario, what are one of the actions from a government perspective? They banned their export, and they said we put an export ban on plastic, tires, and glass because they were all ending up in underdeveloped economies on their seashores. And there are a lot of very disturbing pictures on the internet if you look at it. So Australia banned their export, not import, export. So that's a self-regulation saying that we won't export these. That formed 32% of our export were banned in 2018-19. And that 32% was on the right side, you'll see 1.4 million tons, total value of 291 million Australian dollars, consisting of 7% tires, 13% plastics, 79% paper and cardboard. We used to put it in a ship and dump it, get money for it as well. $291 million is not a small check. But the government took their decision in 2018-19, we'll ban those exports, and we are saving, not us, because there's a lot of garbage in our backyard now, the 1.4 million tons. So the government is saying, don't produce that. And also we are saving our neighbors by not dumping that into their shores. So in summary, it's been a long discussion. In summary, I've summarized this circular economy principles that are working so good for the developed countries into 5 principles that we already see. And every principle has got some strategies put behind them. There are total 14 strategies and 5 principles. Let's run through them very quickly. Number 1, as we have seen, was avoid waste. And there are 3 strategies behind that. Sorry. Strategy 1 was avoiding the waste by delivering coordinated actions. The community and businesses put the pressure on them to do it. Strategy 2 on that avoiding waste was, so sorry, I'll repeat myself again. What I'm trying to show here in simple terms is 5 principles with total 14 strategies. So how do we avoid waste? Using strategy 1, 2, 3. Looking at design, looking at knowledge sharing, education, and a behavioral change with collectively as businesses, as individuals. These 3 strategies, developed economies are achieving maximum avoidance or reduction in waste by these 3 strategies. Next is improve resource recovery was our second principle. The way they're doing it, product stewardship, which means find something new, some new product or some new way of making a product that's called product stewardship. A common approach that is industries and bodies come together and find new ways of doing things, or one common way of doing things, so they can utilize the economies of scale and reduce their costs. Improving access to those waste and materials and the information, and then increasing industry capacity to be able to recover, to be able to make use of recovered resources. So principle 2 with these 4 strategies is achieving improvised resource recovery. Principle 3, increasing use of recycled material and build demand and market for recycled products. So already there is social awareness. As you see, we all go and look for that recycle symbol and try to buy it more. We recycle our bottles. So there is that social conscience of doing it, which is the strategies behind this is to build a demand for new markets of recycled materials, which is sustainable procurement. So the long-term governments can keep buying something that's made of recycled resources, and sustainable procurement by businesses and individuals as well. So this is only about procurement. Try to buy or build a demand. If you're a business selling, if you're buying, try to buy anything that's made of recycle. Simple principle. Then the fourth one, second last one, better manage material flow. This is the logistics of it. So how do we package and ship plastics and packaging strategy? Then sound management of chemical and hazardous waste, which is again through transportation or the way they are carried from one place to other. Reduce organic waste. FOGA, I keep repeating FOGA example. And the last principle is to improve information flow or collection and utilization of data and publication of reports. Then spend money and resources behind market development and research by the government. Australian government is doing it. Most of the developed economies are doing it. Governments are doing it. Everyone in the world, whoever is producing the worst waste or generating worst waste, is doing the best for managing it as well. Only through these 5 simple principles and few strategies behind them. They may call it differently, but about 3 simple strategies behind everyone on an average. Now, just to conclude this as to what happens in the world, Australia had a summit in 2020. You can read the details of it, but the attention I want to draw here is there are 3 major industries that made commitments in that summit in 2020. And that was not long term, it was only in 12 months time. So Pact Group announced that it will invest $500 million in one of those strategies behind those principles by 2025 to achieve a target. And they did, or they are on the way. McDonald's immediately banned all their plastic cutlery by end of 2020. 585 tons of plastic waste each year avoided. Then Nestle invested in their information technology or IQ Renew for soft plastics from 100,000 homes, 1 lakh homes, recycle recovery, and diverting approximately 750 tons of soft plastic otherwise headed for landfill. So they found ways of using from the household and avoided 3/4 of a million tons of waste. So like everyone else, Australia has a target of reducing their organic or food waste by half by 2030, which is in 8 and bit years time, under 9 years time. And I'm only giving these examples to say there are hundreds and hundreds of initiatives that countries are doing. I'm only showing certain examples as to what are the difference where there is no one single way, there are different ways of doing it. And these are the ways of doing it. So as I initially said, that is one of the recent articles that I suggest if you find a chance, because it's long drawn up to 2050, World Bank Group with those authors. And I give a lot of credit for what I have summarized in this for them, not taken directly, but there's a lot of reading in that publication. I urge you do it. From that perspective, I'll thank you for this opportunity once again. I'm sure you will hear a lot more informative from other eminent speakers in the next 3 days to come. Thank you once again for the organizers and everyone, all my colleagues and friends there. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir, for taking us through the facts of solid waste management, from generation of waste to various types of waste and their disposal. We got to know many eye-opening facts from the details that you shared, and I think everyone will believe what I say. So today's take home from the lecture is reduce, reuse, recycle, recover, but don't dispose or don't try to dispose the waste to the best we can. We also heard and understood about the circular economy, which was, I think, a new term for many of us. Thanks a lot, sir. I would like to take up one question shooted by Mr. Ramesh Kumar, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, if it's okay with you.
Sure. Yeah. Can you hear me?
So the
Can you hear
question
me?
says,
I
what
can
are the
answer it.
penal provisions in Australia for improper management of waste?
Sorry. Repeat the question, madam, again.
Can you hear us, sir?
Yes, I can.
Is there any penal provisions?
Yeah. So the question by Mr. Ramesh Kumar, sir, says, what are the penal provisions in Australia for improper management of waste?
Huge. I mean, I can't quantify in dollar value, but what I'm saying is, as a resident, for example, let's take that example. As a resident, I will think 10 times before putting my rubbish into the bin, whether it goes into recycle or the red bin, or the organic bin or the vegetation bin. So my garden waste has to go in a green bin. I can't put it in a red bin. I think twice because my bin is identified, and if they find out, what are the chances of them? There's no policing. There's not everyone walking to every day looking at this. But if they find out that I have put my garden waste into the red bin or a recyclable bin, they will know it when they are downloading. All I get next day is a ticket for $1,000. That is as a resident, okay, as a simple citizen. For corporates, it's huge. I'm happy to share what it is exactly. I had a different presentation where there was the by law, what are the penalties that apply for improper management of waste, and especially, as you would imagine, it's about 10 to 12 folds more for hazardous and explosive waste.
Great. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to hand over to Sharanya to introduce our next guest.
Our next speaker is Dr. Ramesh Dr. with PhD. Sorry, sir. Dr. Ravi Dr. with PhD in Environmental Economics from University of Mysore through Institute of Social and Economic Change, Bangalore. Presently working as Environmental Officer at Karnataka State Pollution Control Board, Bangalore, having 30 years of rich experience in pollution control issues. Authored textbooks published by Research India Publications, New Delhi, 2010. Written number of articles in international national journals, working papers on different issues, and participated in number of television shows and radio talks on different environmental issues, guiding PhD, PG, and UG students on different areas of pollution control and environmental engineering. Attended as resource person in more than 175 technical talks, workshops, training program, conferences. Delivered expert talk through webinar in more than 67 technical talk during COVID since April 2020. Visited Sweden to study best practices in environmental governance in hazardous waste and e-waste management at Sweden during September 2019. Also visited Omia, Stockholm and Anand. Sir, please take the screen, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to talk on sustainable transportation, the topic of the day actually, because we have seen most of these urban centers across the world are facing a lot of problem with respect to urban air pollution. We are all experiencing that. Yeah, ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಈ ಲೈಟ್ ಆರಿಸ್ಬಿಡಿ, ಅವಾಗ ಆ ಲೈಟ್ ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ. ಯಾ, ಐ ವಾಸ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಗಿವಿಂಗ್ ಯು ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಪರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ವ, ಯಾರು ಆಪರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? ಯಾ, I was just talking to you about introduction to my talk of today, that is on sustainable transportation, which we are going to discuss for a few minutes, another few minutes. To give a background of what is required today on sustainable transportation is, I was just telling you that most of the urban centers across the world are facing a problem of urban air pollution, and mostly because of vehicular traffic. Even though a lot of urban centers across the world has discontinued with the industrial thing, but vehicles are contributing significantly for urban air pollution across the cities of India and are across the cities of world today. Probably studies done to ensure to know what is a contributory factor for urban air pollution across the centers of this world. We have all seen transportation sector is significantly contributing for particulate matter 10 or particulate matter 2.5 pollutant. Apart from that, there are a lot of other pollutants which are being emitted through this transportation sector. So what is the strategy which we can adopt to ensure transportation is, as we all know, today we are talking a lot of things on sustainable development, sustainable economy, all those things. Similarly, we may also have to make a strategy or make a policy to ensure that the present transportation level is maintained along with the contribution or health of environmental resources. So, it is better to have sustainable transportation similar to sustainable development or any other word which we have coined in the recent past to ensure the pace of transportation vis-a-vis health of environment. Probably the other motto towards achieving sustainable transportation is the pollution which is being caused across the world with respect to water pollution, air pollution. ಬೇಡ ಈಗಲೇ ಬೇಡ ಹಿಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಕೈ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. The problem what we are facing in terms of pollution because of anthropogenic activities which has taken place since last 30-40 years have all contributed for pollution of different environmental attributes, maybe water pollution, maybe air pollution, maybe soil, whatever we see because of production consumption activities which we have achieved through economic development, or I should say economic welfare, have significantly contributed for environmental pollution across the globe. So each domain has to be looked into very carefully to maintain the sustenance of environment vis-a-vis present economic development. And there is a huge challenge in maintaining or balancing the development vis-a-vis environmental health, but it has become inevitable to ensure that there is a need to protect the environmental attributes vis-a-vis the present pace of economic development. So in the process of attaining environmental health, there is also a need to ensure sustainability in all domains. And one sector which we are going to discuss is a transportation sector, where the possibility of sustainable development or sustenance is very good. It means we can definitely achieve sustainable level when we discuss things about transportation. That is what I am more interested. So what are the ways and means and for achieving sustainable transportation, which we are going to discuss in the later stages. But first and foremost thing what we are targeting is why we have to discuss the sustainable transportation and what is the cause for this problem and what are the sources of this problem and why these contributory factors of pollutants, I should say air pollutants, are significantly are forcing us to maintain sustenance in the transportation sector. That is most important. I'm going to discuss next 40 minutes about what are the causes of the air pollution across the globe. If I'm going to present a scenario of Bangalore today, it means that is a similar scenario which we are all experiencing across the cities of India as well as across the major cities of the world. Probably the similar situations have been experienced by the people across the globe. So that also makes us, the policy makers, to think on creating a policy, or I should say evolving a policy to achieve sustainable transportation. That is the main theme of today, which I am going to discuss next. I think the slide itself will give you a lot of information about how the air pollution are being caused because of anthropogenic activities, or I should say human activities, which are not required actually. See the lower picture, see the upper picture. That difference itself will give you how the Indian cities are experiencing serious urban air pollution throughout the year because of this type of unplanned economic or anthropogenic activities. This is another scenario of what is required to reduce urban air pollution in the urban centers. We all know that trees are going to play a vital role in reducing pollution, especially the particulate matter pollution and greenhouse gas pollution across the centers, urban centers. See the scenario across the different cities of the world. What is required for human being is to exhale the carbon dioxide and then get the oxygen, which are generated through the green cover. But most of the urban centers in India as well as in the world are experiencing disappearance of water bodies as well as tree cover due to developmental activities. I should say developmental in the sense that we are talking in terms of economic development and economic welfare. If that is the case, one side we are increasing the polluting activities, I should say number of vehicles. On the other side, we are reducing the absorbing materials like trees. What is the result? The result is known to us, that is increased urban air pollution across, or I should say air pollution across the globe. What is the strategy which we can make? The strategy what we can think of is to maintain the absorbing materials, reducing the pollution activities, recycle, reuse strategies to be adopted for different activities so that minimum polluting materials will be emitted at the end as a result of anthropogenic activities, I should say economic development and economic welfare. This is a picture which gives you what is the impact of urban air pollution across the globe. It is from every activity. The activity which we start in the morning till evening, different activities including industries, vehicle movement, etc. Next. Importance, I have already discussed this with you, but I just wanted to draw your attention to the two words which I just made as red color. What is lacking in the recent past? The problem across the globe is when we have started thinking on economic development and economic welfare, we know natural resources are, environment is a supply of natural resources which is required for our economic development or economic welfare. So, when the resources we extracted for our economic development through production consumption activities, there is an inevitable waste which is generated, that also we started putting back to the environment. So, by the way, what we are doing is the natural resources which are there in the earth's crust is being extracted for various economic activities, and the waste generated through production consumption activities are also being dumped into the environment. In a way, what we have done is we have ensured depletion of natural resources in terms of not only quantity but also in terms of quality, because we have started disposing the waste back into the system. But why I given this introduction is because I told you, I have two words which I just marked as red. Unfortunately, in the process of extracting natural resources to produce some goods and commodities, we have ignored the health of the environment. That is a crux we have to understand. So what is the result of that? The result of the ignorance of environment is the experience what we are facing today in terms of flooding, drought, loss of minerals, increased pollution, all those things. So then what is the next alternative for that? The best alternative is what we have learned from our ancestors. The Mother Earth should be respected and it has to be maintained. That is sure we have all experienced even that in the during this COVID period. So as long as the health of the earth remains good, the people who are living on this earth also remains healthy. The problem and the thing which I wanted to pass a message is better to learn to respect the Mother Earth. Once we have a tendency to respect the Mother Earth, inevitably it will be maintained through our process. That is what it is required. Then what is the value of nature which we are talking of? We have all experienced during this COVID that we have paid 800, 900 or 1000 rupees for a cylinder of 14 kgs of oxygen which was required for the sustenance of human beings. But the trees are the free goods or free materials which are giving oxygen for our respiration. So what we have forgotten here is the cashless contribution made by these natural resources. We have ignored. Unfortunately, we have faced shortage of these essentials which are for the survival of human beings. So if you ask me, in this process, do we have any value for the nature? My answer is yes. We have a value of this nature. Unfortunately, the value was an intrinsic word which consists of all elements. It's not similar to the price what we have in the market for a particular commodity. I'll give you an example. See, I know the value of price of rice is about 60 rupees in a market. But I don't know how the farmer gets up at midnight of 3 o'clock to ensure the water flow to his field and grows that rice. That is a value which we have ignored. So we know the value of a forest. We know the price of a forest, but we don't know the value of a forest, which contributes in terms of soil replenishment, oxygen giving, then flood control, raining. All those things are ecosystem services which are given by this nature free of cost to us, and we have not respected these goods and services which are given by the nature for the human beings. This is a study done during 2009. The people have tried to estimate the value of Amazon forest, and you will not believe the number runs to $33.3 trillion. And the valuers have considered all the ecosystem services, goods provided by forest ecosystem, and most of the intrinsic values are not considered here. For example, degradation of forest leaves or other things through microorganisms, it's not considered here. But forgetting all those small contributions by so-called microorganisms or any other elements of this nature, taking only the major contributory factors of ecosystem services, the value runs to $33.3 trillion, which is more than the global GNP of this world. What I mean here is, what I want to pass a message by showing this slide is, nature is beyond all our economic activities. It has got intrinsic values which we have not perceived. Probably we may have to perceive in the following years to understand the intricacies of the nature and the respectfulness or the maintenance towards this nature. And what is this problem in the recent past? How we are experiencing the pollution across the world? Probably, if you see last month scenario, Delhi, even today, Delhi is almost standstill. Why this issue? In spite of our economic development and economic welfare, we are forced to shut down the operations of economic activities just for the sake of environment. The main problem here is all these natural resources, unfortunately, are considered as public goods. And as we know, when we consider any commodity or any goods as a public good, there are two basic characteristics which are embedded with the word called public goods. That is non-excludable and that is non-rivalous. What is non-excludable? The material are the resources which prevents by others to use is called non-excludable. I'll give you an example like this. In this room or in your place, you have oxygen in your atmosphere. You are going to inhale that for your respiratory system. You cannot prevent the other people to inhale the oxygen in the same room. What I mean here is, when you call or when you give a domain of public goods for any resources, there is always a tendency of abusing or overusing that resources. And what is non-driverless? This also is very intrinsic when you consider this as this in terms of environmental resources. It means that the overall consumption of a particular goods, or I should say natural resources, will never reduce the total availability of that particular natural resources for others' consumption. I'll give you an example. I justify my statement by giving an example saying there is a pond in your village or a city. You are going to consume 1 or 2 pots of water for your daily consumption. Once you take, or if few others also takes the same consumption, the overall availability of water will never get reduced because of consumption by all. What is happening when we are defining these natural resources as a public good? Very unfortunate thing is, when you give any commodity in the domain of public good, there is always an overconsumption or abusement of all those resources. That is a problem. When you take an example of a paper and pulp or sugar or distillery, there is always a overconsumption of water rather than what is required to produce a ton of sugar, produce a kiloliter of distilleries or other things. We all know there is a flow of energy and material in the nature as well as in economic development. So when we are going to produce more goods, we have to consume more natural resources. As I said earlier, there is an inevitable more waste which is being generated or put into the system. So when we are doing this economic activities, there is always an overconsumption of these resources, and there is an over generation of these waste in the process. And that waste is also being put back to the system. That is why the increased pollution is happening in the recent past. Now, what are the environmental problems what we are facing today? We have all experienced. The main problem of environmental pollution is because of ignorance towards the environment. So earlier, when we started talking of industrialization, agricultural revolution, etc., we kept people or man at the center, and all the developments were revolving around the human beings, ignoring the environmental component or environmental attributes, which are main reason or which are main source for our all economic development and economic welfare. That is why when we started ignoring the environment, when we have not put a thought process for resource conservation or pollution control, the pollution has increased. The technology what we have developed to improve the quality of life, unfortunately, has disrupted the balance of nature and caused irreversible damage. This is a problems which are happened in the recent past due to ignorance of environment. And unfortunately, environmental problems even today are not looked into in a holistic manner, but as a separate entities. So it is necessary to ensure that the environmental problems are handled not only with the waste, but also with the raw materials and the resources which we are using it. So what happens when the environmental pollution has increased? The environmental pollution, when it is increased, it gives a lot of pressure on the Earth's ecosystem. Or as I said earlier, it puts a lot of pressure on the ecosystem services which are being happened or which are being managed for the welfare of human beings. So the capacity of ecosystem services will get diminished because of increased pollution. And natural disasters, apart from anthropogenic activities, there are other natural disasters which are significantly contributing for increased pollution that weakens the strained ecosystem. As I said earlier, the ecosystem is already strained because of anthropogenic activities, these pollution are going to aggravate the weakness of the environment. So taking that as a whole holistic view of a pollution specific to air pollution, as I said earlier, air pollution is a serious threat in the recent past due to anthropogenic activities. I don't want to discuss the definition of air pollution and different air pollutants now, because most of us know what is air pollution and what are the causes of or sources are the different types of air pollution. But I just wanted to draw your attention to a word called concentration beyond its limit. What I mean here, I mean that the threshold concentration which are prescribed by either WHO or CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board in India, is not basically a safe environmental standard. It means if I inhale a concentration of particulate matter of say less than 20, I cannot claim that my health is good. What I mean here is, since all these issues are very sensitive, specific to people, we cannot claim that what we are going to achieve as a standard may not be defined perfectly as a safe environmental standard. So what is the target which we may have to achieve? The target which may have to achieve is to ensure zero pollution across the globe, whether it is air pollution, water pollution, or any other type of pollution. Our agenda should always be to ensure zero pollution across the activities. But whether it is possible to achieve zero pollution? Definitely no, because we know energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, but can be converted from one form to other form. It means when you are talking of or when you are producing some certain goods and materials in the process of production and consumption activity, there is something inevitably comes out as a waste. But what best we can do is to ensure prevention of the waste first, and then control of that pollution which happens inevitably. What comes out as a final waste, that can be disposed. So assume that we are going to generate 10 kgs of waste from some activity. So our first strategy is to ensure at least through 2 kgs of pollution through prevention activities, and another 6 kgs of pollution through control activity, and whatever comes as 2 kgs which is inevitable, which cannot be recycled or reused or used back in the process, I should say inert waste, that can be disposed to the environment, so that the environmental regeneration capacity can be enhanced. What I mean here is the environmental burden of discharging the untreated pollutants can be reduced drastically when you prevent and control a pollutant which is going to emanate from the production consumption activity. Going back to the air pollution factor, as we all know, the air pollution sources or contributory factors are enormous. To make a list, I have just listed some of the things. Contributing severity in terms of air pollutions are the increased population, increased vehicular growth and the reduction in the traveling time, increased industrial activities. So all these things are either directly or indirectly contributing for the increased pollution, air pollution in the cities. But I just wanted to draw your attention to the last one, that is social and economic constraints in adopting control measures. Please understand this. What are the social and economic constraints which are there to ensure reduction in the pollution? It means, suppose if I say, if I give an example of cement industry, the owner has to adopt electrostatic precipitator as a control equipment to reduce his particulate matter emission. Whether he has got adequate money to provide electrostatic precipitator, that is a question mark. Whether he has got a policy to adopt that, that is a question mark. Whether he has got a space to install that electrostatic precipitator, that is a question mark. So apart from the activities which we are performing, we also have certain social and economic constraints to adopt efficient pollution reduction strategies. This is most important. Even though there are policies, but we have failed because of all these things. Why we are discussing air pollution now? As I have already told you, it is very dangerous. It affects large number of people across the space. It is not like the water pollution what we are experiencing in some of the occasions. Like suppose if there is a pond, there is a untreated water discharged into the pond, only that area will get affected. But it is not when we are talking about air pollution. It has got a transboundary movement. So naturally, it spreads to wider area, affecting large number of people. Whether people are directly involved in the process or indirectly involved in the process, all those people are affected because of air pollution. And we have all experienced the health costs are enormous. Lot of studies done across the globe in terms of impact of increased urban air pollution on the health of human beings. All studies have proved that it has got an enormous cost on the health of people. It means out of pocket expenditure is enormous. That is why there is a need to prevent the air pollution across the globe. What is the effect of air pollution? I don't want to discuss too much on this, but I just want to draw your attention towards loss of productivity. It means if I'm not well, my efficiency will definitely get reduced. I cannot work with the optimum efficiency of what I was working when I am healthy. Loss of man days due to illness. I'm going to put a leave to my office. I cannot attend my day-to-day activities. Naturally, all those things and increased treatment cost and loss in wages. I've already told you, if I got a chronic diseases like lung cancer, pneumonia, COPD, all those things, I may have to incur huge money to come out from that situation. These are the effects of air pollution and health effects. Since I have already told you, specific pollutants has got specific impact on the different organs of human beings, on the health of human beings, but cumulatively, some of those pollutants have got serious impact on the health of the human beings. I've just listed some of the important toxicants and the health impacts which those toxicants are going to cause. For example, ozone, respiratory system, impacts on respiratory system and lung. Carbon monoxide, impacts on circulatory system and heart. But cumulatively, I'll give an example. Combining particulate matter with ozone, the severity is not independent of ozone and particulate matter, but it is little more than independently what ozone can damage or what PM can damage. So what is this statistics which we speak on air pollution? These are the studies done through scientific methodology, and it all says the air pollution is a threat to the ecosystem in the recent past. They are not telling it is only for the human beings. The air pollution is going to cause serious impact on the total ecosystems of this environment, and what we are facing in terms of climate change in the recent past, floods, droughts across the globe are all because of damage in the ecosystem services or interference of human beings on the ecosystem services, what is being maintained or managed by the earth. These are mere numbers, really should threaten us the way we are treating the environmental attributes. 33 lakh people live in a significant air pollution area. 11,000 excess deaths per annum due to exposure to air pollution and 20 billion in excess healthcare costs per year due to only air pollution. So these are the expenditure which are incurred beyond the regular expenditure which human beings are incurring on their regular or routine day-to-day jobs. This is an extra because of increased air pollution. What is the urban health impact? Again, these are the numbers, but probably these numbers should threaten us to make some effort to reduce air pollution across the cities. 6,500 per annum premature deaths. See, to look at, we feel it's a small number. But when you take a total population of that city or of that region, this is not a small number. Probably These are the numbers which are indirectly or directly happening because of increased air pollution. 4,000 per annum hospital admission for respiratory related diseases, 3,000 per annum hospital admission for cardiovascular diseases, 3,50,000 per annum asthma attacks. See the numbers, how it's really dangerous to have air pollution. And I just wanted to discuss a case study with respect to Bangalore in terms of how we can achieve the problem of air pollution vis-a-vis contributory source of transportation in order to ensure health of air in the urban centers. During 2012, an effort was made to understand what are the different sources which are contributing urban air pollution in Bangalore. The study revealed that transportation sector is contributing about 42% of overall urban air pollution in Bangalore. Apart from transport sector, the domestic and industry is contributing only 14%. So what is a message which we are going to understand this table? The table clearly gives that a specific separate strategy or policy should be made to handle the pollution from transport sector. That is most important. Probably shifting of Euro 4 and Euro 6 is a measure based on the studies done across India. Going for motorized vehicles to natural source driven vehicles like LNG, CNG, solar, battery, all those things are also because of the studies done across Indian cities, giving a conclusion that transport sector across cities are contributing significantly for air pollution in the cities. So as I said in the introduction itself, we are increasing the anthropogenic activities contributing for urban air pollution, and we are reducing those materials or objects which are responsible for reducing air pollution in the cities. This is a picture of green cover in Bangalore since 1973 to 2020. If you can see, 95% of green area which were there during 1973 has converted into buildings, infrastructure projects during 2020. It means the green cover area which was responsible for reduction in particulate matter is reduced drastically, but the anthropogenic activities contributing for particulate matter pollution is increased drastically, contributing overall increase of urban air pollution in the center. If you can see the sentences, the paved surfaces has increased by 1005% since last 40 years. The green cover has reduced from 68% to 25%, and now it is less than 15% today. The area of ponds and lakes has reduced to less than 1/3 from 3.4% to just 1%. Today, the scenario is a little different. It is definitely less than 1%. And it is predicted that Bangalore will be left with only 3% of green cover in the next couple of years. What I mean here is, as I said earlier, we are increasing the polluting activities and we are reducing the pollution absorbing activities. Vehicular growth, see the numbers. 248% of increase in the number of vehicles during last 40 years. We cannot imagine that. So there is a need to prepare a policy for transportation sector to ensure sustainable transportation. This is another slide talks of scenario of green cover in Bangalore. It has reduced to less than 1% in some of the wards. It means absolutely there is no trees in proportion with the population which are living in those wards, or I should say areas. This is really a dangerous scenario. And what is this ambient air quality monitoring? As I said, monitoring is required to know the health of environmental attributes. It's similar to a diagnostic laboratories, which is there for ensuring the health of human beings. To ensure the health of environment, there is necessary to have a regular monitoring of different environmental attributes over a period of time. So what we are going to get through this studies is, what is a strategy which we can make to reduce pollution from that particular sector? As I said in the table, when we did a study during 2012, it was clearly indicated that transport sector is contributing significantly for urban air pollution. So there is a need to prepare a separate policy for transport sector in Bangalore. That is how the monitoring has helped us to prepare a specific policy targeting polluting activities to reduce urban air pollution in Bangalore. These are the monitoring stations which are being operated today. And these are the few slides which talks on the air quality status of Bangalore and different locations of Bangalore. If you see this chart, particulate matter concentration 10 and 2.5 is exceeding at least 2 to 3 times than the standard when compared to the oxides of sulfur and nitrous oxides or oxides of nitrogen. What I mean here is, suppose if we know that the particulate matter concentration is very high, the strategies should be made to contain or cut down the absorption of emission of particulate matter sources vis-a-vis prevention and control activity to ensure lesser particulate matter emission from all those activities. That is what it is required. This is in another location. Again, similar to the earlier one, the particulate matter concentration is little higher than the specific standard. This is another industrial area. See, it is very, very high. And this are the paper cuttings which talks of what is the air quality of Bangalore and its impact on the human beings. This is in Kannada. I just read this for you, for some of the people who cannot understand Kannada. It says 25% of children in Bangalore are suffering with asthma. But I just want to draw your attention. If I say 25%, it is mere number. But if you compare the 25% with 1.2 crore people who are living in Bangalore, it's really a huge number. And the second paper cutting says Bangalore in lung cancer stands at 3rd place. This is also a dangerous statement. And this is a slide which I just purposely put to show you how the environment air quality scenario during the lockdown of COVID. The left picture or the graph, the thing is showing us how the air quality in those locations before the COVID or before the lockdown of the city, and the right one shows the air quality during the lockdown period. It was U-turn. Wherever there are high particulate matter concentration depicted before the lockdown period have all shown within the period, within the standard, or I should say far below the standard during the lockdown period. It means anthropogenic activities are contributing for air pollution in Bangalore. That is a message. So what is a strategy which we can adopt is either to reduce the anthropogenic activities which are contributing for air pollution, or to maintain a policy or evolve a policy to achieve sustainable transportation in Bangalore. That is what these studies have given a message. And what is this air pollution control philosophy which we are talking of? See, today we cannot have a place where it is completely unpolluted. No, we cannot think of that scenario which were there since last 60, 70 years back. But what is required here is, within our limitations, through policy, technology or any other media, it is better to reduce the pollution to a maximum extent. So what is a policy which we can think of in terms of air pollution is, we know there are emission standards which we can adopt through notifications, or I should say act policy, and we have air quality standards above emission standards to strengthen the quality of air to a little good extent. And if there are any non-complying strategies, we can impose a tax through emission taxes. And finally, we can have a policy to measure cost benefit analysis of those standards are the policy implications or interventions to ensure the air pollution. I'll give you an example to make you to understand a little more on this emission standard. We have cement industry in the premises. The CPCB says, as per specific standard, industry specific standard, the particulate matter concentration from cement industry should not exceed 30 microgram per nanometer cube. Assume that there are 10 such cement factories in their premises. So as a cumulative measure, assume that those 10 industries will emit about 300 milligram per liter of per nanometer cube of particulate matter in that region. But above that, as I said, air quality standard will come. That is ambient air quality standard. So ambient air prescribes 60 microgram per nanometer cube of particulate matter over a period. It means even though the total cumulative particulate matter concentration in that region is 300 microgram per nanometer cube, so there is a responsibility of those industry to ensure that the particulate matter concentration in the ambient air should be less than 60 microgram per nanometer cube. That is a strategy which one can adopt. So what happens if the couple of industries doesn't comply with that? Assume that the ambient air quality in that region is say 90 microgram per nanometer cube. So if you assume that the standard is 60 but the actual is 90, so there is a tax which we can impose to the extent of 30 microgram per nanometer cube to all those 10 factories, so that they should feel better to have control strategy but not to pay a tax in terms of emission tax. So this is how the policy will ensure through some economic instruments that the quality of air, water or any other environmental attributes will be maintained in a sustenance way. So finally, what we are talking of sustainability or sustainable development is the level of economic activity with which the environmental quality should be kept intact. It means there should not be any loss of environmental attributes due to increased economic activities or economic development. It means maximizing the net benefit of economic development but maintaining the services and quality of natural resources over a period of time. This is most important. That is what the sustainability or sustainable development or sustainable transportation talks of. Then what we can think of towards sustainable development? It means one-to-one connection. That means from starting point till the end point of a person, we should have a transportation system where there is minimum pollution, or I should say air pollution, from that activity. It means goods and services should be transported to markets, and citizens or the people should be transported to education institutions if they are studying, healthcare if they are patients, livelihood if they are working in some organization, and any other social activities. What I mean here is the connection what we are going to make or the policy what we are going to evolve should be in such a way that maximum utilization of that particular system should be achieved through minimum generation of pollution through that activities. So sustainable transportation refers to any means of transportation that is green or has low impact on the environment. I have used low impact because I know we cannot have zero impact on the environment. So the sustainable transportation is balancing the current and future needs. This is most important. So there is a need to balance the present and the future, because we cannot go back to the past. So the present has to be managed, keeping the future growth of the thing. So this is a scenario of Bangalore. As I said earlier, there is a huge increase in the private vehicle registration, and even the city transport vehicle will also apply to a very maximum extent, nook and corners of the city, creating a lot of pollution. And if you take public transportation system, it is very, very low. That is only 48% when you compare with the other cities of India, that is Mumbai, Kolkata, where the public transportation system is about 80%. So what is the objective of transportation, sustainable transportation we are talking of? The transportation system should have a diversity. It may be through waterways, it may be trams, it may be suburban railways, it may be metros. Exactly. It means if a person is traveling from distance A to distance B, he has to reach that place without any problem, but minimizing his total overall impact of air pollution in the environment. So there is a need to achieve system integration. That means various components of transportation should be integrated in such a way that every system will be appeared as sustainable transportation, reducing the overall air pollution in the center. And it should be affordable. It means every people across the society can afford the system of sustainable transportation, and there is a minimum usage of energy and land. It means we have to achieve maximum resource efficiency through policy to ensure that there is a minimum energy generation, vis-a-vis minimum pollution, and then land efficiency shall also be increased. So land use accessibility is another objective of sustainable transportation. So whatever land available, we know land is also a finite resource. So whatever land available for transportation sector should be utilized optimally to make options for other land users in that vicinity. Then operation efficiency should be maximum with the minimum cost. So these are the basic objectives of transportation, sustainable transportation, what we are thinking of. Then what is achievable sustainable transportation? It means how we can achieve the sustainable transportation system in urban centers to reduce the air pollution. First and foremost is congestion pricing. It means if we have the congested areas or corridors, if anybody want to travel in those corridors, he should be charged with a price where he has to feel not to go in that congested area, but to have a lessen pollution in that region. The second option, what we can think of is high parking fees. Naturally, this discourages the usage of private vehicle and encourages the public transportation system. And restricting the areas, it means the high polluted areas should be restricted to allow all types of vehicles in that particular period, so that the overall pollution from that region can be reduced. And creating a zone, this is another method to achieve sustainable transportation. Like for example, if there are specific industries that has to be established in a specific areas. If we have a metro or mono railway system, the people will get down and in a specific zone, they will travel to their distance through other means of transportation. Okay, there should be a dedicated zone for specific motorized vehicles to transport to their region. And the other option to achieve is to provide a priority lanes. Like for example, city buses, they should travel in a separate lane. Cycles, they should go in a separate lines. Two-wheelers, they should go in a separate lines. These are the few of the actions which we can think of in terms of achieving sustainable transportation. Apart from these things, there are other indirect methodologies or proposals which we can think of, like incentives. Suppose if any guy is using a public transportation system, he will be charged little less in his charges, or to give direct monetary benefits. Like suppose if guys want to travel in a public motorized system, he will be given some specific incentives of some rupees per month, like for example 1,000 rupees per month, so that he will get a mind or encouraged to men to get into the public transportation system. And non-physical incentives like offering insurances on public transportation system, all those things. Improve public transport system, like not only the bus transport, there should also always be a metro system or mono system, suburban rails, all those things should be connected to each other so that the general public will travel hassle-free throughout their destination. And there is an integration requirement of transportation is also another methodology to achieve sustainable transportation system. Apart from what I said, there are other things like cycling, walking to a nearest distances. This will also significantly contribute for reduction in the air pollution across the cities. Apart from this, in the recent past, most of the governments have already taken a policy to ensure electrical vehicles in next 10 to 15 years. Bangalore has also created a policy for electric vehicles during 2019, and they have a target to achieve 50% of electric vehicles during 2030. It means they want to get the ambient air environment hassle free, that is pollution free, through motorized solarized vehicles, electric power vehicles, or usage of CNG or LNG, etc. But how we can achieve this? We cannot look through a policy for everything towards the government. It is better to have some complaints, or I should say voluntary complaints, in terms of the areas where we can really contribute for reduction in the air pollution. That also has to be looked into, not only for the policies of government towards different things. Like, for example, scrapping of vehicles, 10-year-old vehicles, there is a separate scrap policy. Shifting from Euro 4 to Euro 6, there is a policy. Not to manufacture the diesel motored vehicles from 2020 of April, that is also a policy. So through policies and through economic instruments, I should say monetary incentive mechanism, probably we can encourage to achieve sustainable transportation. This is also inevitable because environment is also putting pressure on the human beings to reduce the different sorts of pollution which are happening through anthropogenic activities. To say some experience across Asian countries, we all seen different forms of urban public transport system which are available across the major Asian centers, like buses, elevated rail, mass rapid transit, urban railways, taxis, boats, ferries, inland waterways. What I mean here is, it is better to integrate different forms of transportation system to make one-to-one connection between the places where people are really want to traverse. This is what I mean here. What is the experience in terms of social, economic, and environmental things? When we integrate different forms of transportation, main goal is reduction in the congestion, that is most important, and enhancing the safety. This is also another social benefit when we integrate different transportation sectors. And in terms of economic, there is an expansion of economic opportunities and increase the value of transportation assets. It means, since we are talking of different modes of transportation, investment on different modes will come, naturally economic development of individuals will get increased. The only environmental benefit is improvement in the air quality of the surrounding region. Of course, this may not be a short-term benefit, but definitely in the health of environment, this is a long-term benefit of environment, which also caters the needs of future generations which are going to come, which is defined in Sustainable Development Goals. This is most important. And to conclude my discussion, it is necessary to understand the relationship between the environment and the human beings. This is most important. We never think that we are beyond the environment or we are separate, environment is separate. No, we are inclusive. So there is a need to ensure inclusive growth of both environment and human beings to achieve sustainable transportation. And we all know air pollution in the recent past is a threat to ecosystem. What we are facing of climate change, changes in the wind pattern, precipitation pattern across the globe is only because of change in the air pollution or air environment across the scenario. So air pollution control will always helps to conserve the resources, encourages the implementation programs and risk reduction and it helps for improvement in the environmental quality across the globe. And air pollution control will always help to allow the regenerations or conservation of these resources. And to conclude about sustainable transportation, as I said, it reduces the time of traveling, congestion, cost, etc. provides multiple choices for public transportation system, improves public transportation system accessible to different places with minimum time, with minimum pollution, reduction in number of private vehicles because we are depending mostly on public vehicle, and there is an integration of different modes of public transportation system, encourages shared mobility and public transport among the citizens, and the use of non-motorized transport system such as walking and cycling, which also improves the health of human beings, which is required in the today's life. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to talk on sustainable transportation, and thanks for Prakriti Institute for giving me an opportunity, and IIT Chennai, all the faculty members and other people of Prakriti and IIT Chennai. I just want to conclude my presentation with the saying that until a man duplicates a blade of grass, nature can laugh at his so-called scientific knowledge. It means we cannot go beyond the nature. We are sure that we have to learn to live within the nature. That is better in the interest of both environment as well as human beings. And finally, thank you very much for patient hearing from my side. If there are any questions, I'm ready to take that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. If any questions are there, please type in the chat box so that our resource person will brief or reply. Two questions.
ಇದೆಯಾ ನೋಡಿ ಅದು
What is that?
Any details of how the policies of KSPCB on or government of Karnataka could reduce the air pollution? ಅದು ಒಂಚೂರು ಮೇಲ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮಾರು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ನಿಮ್ದ
ಇನ್ನು ಕೇಳಬಹುದು
please the presentation slides about the basic statistics on the network details ಚೂರು ನೋಡಿ ಹಲೋ ಹಾಂ ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ಒಂದು 10 ನಿಮಿಷ ಆಯ್ತು ಸರಿ ಓಕೆ ಕಳಿಸಿ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ಒಂದು 10 ನಿಮಿಷ ಹೊಡ್ತೀನಪ್ಪ ಎಸ್ ಎಸ್
Excellent presentation.
Have any details?
How these policies of KSPCB or government of Karnataka could reduce the air pollution?
Yes.
Please.
Yeah. See, with respect to Karnataka, I just wanted to tell you that we have prepared a 44 action plan to reduce air pollution in critically polluted areas, especially in Bangalore. There are certain policies which talks on shifting from fossil fuel vehicles to solar, reduction in the fuel adulteration, and there are policies which talks of pollution under control certification. So these are the few policies which are being evolved and being implemented to reduce air pollution in Bangalore. And these policies are evolved by State Pollution Control Board. Yeah. ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ವಾಯ್ಸ್
ಬರ್ತದೆ ದ್ವಾರಕನಾಥ್
ಅವ್ರೇನೋ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ
ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. I think it is an excellent presentation by both the speakers, especially Dr. Ravi from Karnataka Pollution Control Board, on the various background and information regarding pollution, and also the sources and the effects, and also the various policy measures and the way forward that we have to adopt. And really a very good insight for everyone to listen to your presentation, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
If there is no questions, I thank Dr. D.R. Ravi of Karnataka State Pollution Control Board, who has made an excellent presentation on sustainable transportation and Asian challenges and what is the source of air pollution, source apportionment studies, what are the points to be taken, 44 action plans, all those things are explained in a wonderful manner and nice presentation. I thank on behalf of Prakriti Institute, IIT Madras and also CEPHA to Dr. D.R. Ravi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
And so far we have discussed by starting the program from Dr. S.M. Shivanagendra sir of CEPHA. One more question is there. Yeah, tell me, madam. It is in chat box. Huh?
What is the mix you would suggest?
What is the mix you would suggest for
See,
public?
it is a very difficult thing. It cannot be, defined by the policy makers because it involves private vehicles also. So it will always be a mix, but more emphasis in the coming years will be for electric vehicles and also for LPG and CNG vehicles, especially in urban areas.
Yes, sir.
Urban cities like Bangalore or Mysore, it will be a more shift towards cleaner fuel rather than the conventional fuel.
Yes,
but it is very difficult to put a ratio as such.
Now, I will tell you, sir. I will tell you. There is a provision for making this more stringent, but it is not only through command and control manner. I will say not through pollution control activities, but suppose if we blend that command and control mechanism, what we are having today, with some economic instruments like pricing, taxing, all those things, probably it will work. Because in the earlier presentation, we were talking about a fine provision in Australia for mishandling the solid waste management. He was telling only one word. It is huge, huge. Probably you have all heard him, and it is very. It's really conclusive that unless and until we impose some economic instruments, it is not possible to make awareness among the general public towards environmental resources. That is what he also emphasized. So there is a need to blend command and control, or I should say pollution control laws, with some sort of economic instruments, either through subsidies or through fine or through taxation mechanism, to ensure the compliance towards the environmental attributes. That is what personally, as an environmental economist, I will suggest for the people. It's not that it is impossible, but it has to be through some economic instruments along with command and control mechanism.
Ravi, it's very nice to hear from you.
Madhusudan sir, very much. After a long time. Yeah. After a long time, I'm seeing you, sir.
Fine.
Thank you, sir.
I have a small question. It's a continuation of that one.
Yes,
so
sir.
One of the slide, it is written that in 2030, the Karnataka, they will be having
50% of electric vehicles. Electric vehicles.
Vehicles.
Yeah, sure.
So
sure.
So this is the policy which government of Karnataka they are having.
Yes, sir.
So to increase the need of the energy, what is their plan? Whether they are going to ban the coal extra or they are finding the alternate source of energy?
They are finding alternative source of energy, sir. They are finding alternative source of energy. And the policy is they are already subsidized the registration of solar geared vehicles, and they are discouraging this diesel vehicles to ensure the people will shift from fossil fuel vehicles to solar geared vehicles or energy battery geared vehicles. That is how they have made a policy to achieve 50% of during 2030. I hope if we achieve at least 80%, probably Bangalore environment will be little better rather than going for 50% of electric vehicles during 2030.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the update.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
My question is related to this question only.
Yes, sir.
I'm audible, sir?
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure.
You have shown in the same table
Huh.
that the vehicle population is going to increase manifold.
Yeah. No, it is not manifold, it's going to increase. It is the manifold which already has increased since last 40-50 years.
Yeah, but 2030, your
Yes,
vehicle
sir.
population will be more than doubled, I think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So is there government is planning to curtail number of vehicle on the road, or it is going to increase the length of road or width of road to control the vehicle density on the road?
They
Because
are
it is a very acute problem for every
yes,
metropolitan cities
sure, sir.
for
Sure.
traffic congestion.
Yeah.
So until unless we will decongest the city, so our overall target, I think it will not be in our control.
Exactly, sir. Exactly.
So what is the plan of the government to control the vehicle density on the road?
See, as on today, government policy to enhance the public transportation system in terms of suburban railways and metro rails, what is already there in Bangalore. So they have a plan to increase public transportation system, and they have a target to reduce two-wheelers in Bangalore mostly. That is the main contributory factors. See, out of 88 lakhs as on today, almost 54 lakh vehicles are two-wheelers, two-stroke engines, and you know how the pollution from two-stroke engine will come. So they have a policy to reduce two-wheelers to a maximum extent and to increase the public transportation system to ensure, apart from achieving this electrical vehicle targets by 2030. Hope
Thank you.
no
Thank you.
questions, but I thank everyone there on the other side. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining this 3 days webinar and environmental case. So tomorrow at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, we are starting the second day session with e-waste management and challenges in Asian countries by engineer Venkatesh Murthy, Managing Director, Vance Chemistry Pte. Limited, Singapore. He will talk on e-waste management in developed countries, in Asian countries particularly. And then challenges and strategy for abating air pollution in non-attainment cities by engineer Srimati P.K. Selvi, Senior Scientist of Central Pollution Control Board, Bengaluru. And after that, from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., energy generation and environmental management. What are the sources of energy and how it has to be managed, how what are the non-conventional and conventional energy sources. It will be discussed by Ramesh Kumar. And day after tomorrow at 2 p.m. again we start air pollution management for a sustainable living by Dr. M. Velan, Chairman of Environmental Engineering Division, Institute of Engineers, Chennai. He will talk on that sustainable living and what are all the air pollution sources and how to dispersion modeling, all those details he will discuss. And online environment quiz is organized between 3 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. and that will be a link will be provided at 3 p.m. with some questions, and we will give 4 objectives you have to answer. All the participants are requested to participate. A first prize of rupees 2000, and there are about 13 prizes for all the participants and winners. So I request all the participants to participate in the quiz. After that, from 3:30 to 4:30, we have a panel discussion. In that panel discussion, we have dignitaries from Central Pollution Control Board, State Pollution Control Board, IIT Madras, and NGOs. Uh, uh, they are all participating in this. I request all the participants to join as they have joined today, and we had a very good response. More than 100 participants were in Zoom meeting, and some of the those who cannot join in Zoom meeting, they were all in YouTube meeting also. We had wonderful, and I thank one and all on behalf of IIT Madras, CEPHA, and Prakriti Institute of Environmental Studies for participating in this webinar and made for first day session a successful one. Thank you so much. I think I conclude the program. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Madhusudan, also to see you.
Thank you.
Dwarakanath,
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Madhusudan and Professor
Yeah.
Shiva Nagendra,
Nagendra, sir.
and VP the Yadav Saab also from CPCB Delhi.
Velan sir is also there. And
Thank you. Thank you.
Yadav Saab, namaskar.
नमस्कार नमस्कार कैसे हैं सर?
बस ठीक ठाक है सर.
It's nice to see you.
Yeah, Ramesh from Australia, he joined, and now I think it is for him it is 11:30 in the night.
Yes.
So he was with us for more than after 10 o'clock, and he joined and he made a wonderful presentation how they are taking care of the solid waste problems. We'll discuss tomorrow. Again, we will join tomorrow. Sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Yadav ji.
Thank you, Dr. Madhusudan. It is nice to see you for organizing such a good program. I missed this program. Actually, I was busy with other meeting.
Yeah. Tomorrow you can join, sir.
Yeah. I will try.
Please join by 2 p.m. sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaskar, sir. Namaskar.
Namaste, namaste. ಅಟ್ಲಾ